I was just looking at all the videos that we did in 2024 for the Heatable YouTube channel and realizing what a year it was. We got so much content and we really struggle to find the time to do them, but when we do them, we know it's worth it, and we know that you guys love the content as much as we like making it. So we've put them all together in one huge video, and if you're looking to burn some time over Christmas and revisit your favorite YouTube channel, now it's all in one place for you. Let's get into it. I remember this one. I mean, I can't believe this is like 12 months ago. Time just flies. This was a guy in Swindon, well, a family in Swindon. We put 23 panels on. These, I think, were the Fusion 2 420 watt versions. It was on micro-inverters, and it was one of our first Give Energy all-in-ones. That battery hadn't been out that long. We were super nervous, and on this one, the team were there for 2 days. It was freezing, and we just wanted to get home. And at about 4 o'clock, I was like, oh, I'll commission the battery. I know what I'm doing. It's cool. And we didn't leave till 8:30 at night, and we got in about midnight. So I remember this, but we did. This was a great install. In fact, I looked actually the other day, and since we've installed this, it's done just under 9 megawatt hours of production from those 23 panels, which is mega impressive, especially with the year we've had for weather in 2024. We're on our way down to Swindon, and we're going to be installing 23 panels with a Give Energy all-in-one battery. We've got 4 of the Heatable team here with us today, and they're all absolutely buzzing to have been up since 5 in the morning. It took 3.5 hours to get here. We're still 46 minutes away. Kirk's about to stop for his 3rd toilet break. And we're going to be installing, say, 23 panels, but we're also going to be doing a Give Energy all-in-one. This is one of the new 13.5 kilowatt hour off-grid batteries. Super interesting. We'll catch up more when we get to site. So this is our battery. This is the Give Energy all-in-one 13.5 kilowatt hour. Now it weighs about 150 kilo. So on the training we did for Give Energy, they've told us to cut this out of the box, haven't they? Take it apart and then move it. If you try and move that, basically you've got no chance of getting it and moving it around. So that battery is going to go down here. So if we come, everyone's trying to get out of the way of filming now. They're hiding. So scaffolding's up. So this is for the actual array. I think this is 23 panels on this job. Now, client's already got an air source heat pump. Now, the reason we've gone for the Give Energy all-in-one is 3 things. First of all, because it's probably the best battery on the market. Second of all, it's got a 6 kilowatt continuous transfer rate. And obviously this is a big air source heat pump. It's going to have a big draw of electricity. If we put a small battery in with a small transfer rate, it's not going to meet the demand of the heat pump. The third reason is the capacity. So it's 13.5 kilowatt hour usable, so 100% depth of discharge on that. There is another reason, which is we are in a lovely rural area. Now, if you are in a rural area or certain parts of the UK, the grid isn't the best. And the DNO, so the district network operator for this job, limited the export that we could have to the grid. So basically the grid can't take a lot of power going back to it. The Give Energy all-in-one is something called G100 compliant, which means it can be set to no export. And obviously because the grid's not great, if the power drops with the Give Energy all-in-one, you get instant switch over and full home backup. And it also has something, so there's lots of things, not just 3 on this, something called phase simulation. So normally if you have PV and the grid drops, your PV will shut down because it needs to see the grid, it needs to see the earth. What this Give Energy all-in-one will do is it will simulate the grid. So the PV will stay on. So if the power drops in the day and the PV could produce power, the battery will run the home, the PV will be running, and when the grid comes back on, it'll automatically switch over. So We're going to get it out of the van now. First one we've ever done, well, certainly where I've been present on site. Get it sited here. We're going to have to put some flags down, I think, or some sort of base to sit it on, because this is a shingle driveway. And this battery, because it's so heavy, does sit on the ground. And we've got the gateway too. This is the off-grid piece. I'll take you through the wiring that in a second. So another quick one. This is the incoming supply to the property. Now, interestingly, we've got the tails for this come up. So the incoming supply comes in here. It goes into these are called Henley blocks. Henley blocks are sort of like junction boxes for big supplies. The consumer unit in this property is inside, and these tails go to that. What we need to do today is install the Give Energy gateway, and we need to get our home fuse board meter tails into that gateway. And then when the power drops, we'll actually back up the whole home supply. So we won't just be doing some dedicated circuits. We're going to back up the entire fuse board using those tails, but we'll go through wiring that in a minute. Health and safety. So to open this battery, you need to take all these little tangs off all the way around the battery, and it takes about 40 minutes or an hour. When we were on the Give Energy training, they actually told us to use a 20mm blade and cut around all the inside of this metal frame. It's basically the quickest way to open the box. The trainer reckons it's quicker to install the battery than it is to open the box, but we'll time that today and find out.
Sweet. Yeah, there is a grand deal.
Look at that for a spirit level.
Just in case we don't know our left and right these days.
There we go.
I mean, look at that. Big white battery.
So this is Give Energy all in one. There she blows. It's there. Oh no, it's a gland. There we go. Right, it's just screwed on. Oh, gotcha! Yeah, it's alright. It's alright, yeah. Okay, so where we are now, we're just digging out the all-in-one has 4 adjustable feet on it, and obviously this is a shingle floor. So we've been to a builder's merchant, we've bought some slabs. We're just sinking them into the, trying to find the hardcore underneath now. We've done that. We're going to set these and level them off now, and then when this battery's sat over them, hopefully the shingle will slide over the top and you'll never know they're there, but it'll have a nice sub base. Obviously when this battery's full, it's got these 4 batteries in it, and it's going to weigh about 250, 160 kg. Got mud and dust all over me. So next thing now is going to be level these off, get the inverter on there, get the uni-strut on the wall, and we'll start to set it out. Let's go and take a look at some of the other stuff on this job. So when you get an install from Heatable, 99% of our jobs go out with these. These are micro-inverters. So these are actually IQ7 pluses. These sit on the rail behind the panel, and essentially what we do is we convert the power from the roof from DC to AC locally. So we don't have string inverters, we're not bringing high power DC down the side of the property, high voltage. We're doing it all locally on the roof. So they sit in there. Now to connect them, you use these are Q cables. So Q cable, essentially it's 2.5mm stranded cable. It's an AC lead, and on this inverter, he says, on one side of it, you've got the Q cable. This is the AC connection. And on this side, you've got the DC connection. So your positive and your negative from your panel go into this side. AC comes out. That's a single piece of it. But if you look at it, it all comes stranded in length. So it's all pre-done. You don't have to make it off on the roof. 23 panel system. This is all of the micro-inverters. Am I getting covered in dust there?
Oh yeah.
Brilliant. Finally, on this job, slate roof. So we're using a slate kit to install the mounting system on the roof. So all roof types in the UK are different. Let's take a quick look around here now. You've got all different types of roof tiles. You've got plain tiles over there. You've got Marleys. You've got all sorts of different roofs. So you need a different mounting system for every different tile. So we pick that when we specify your job. That'll come with the actual the correct mounting system for it. And finally, we've got our panels. So sweeping back of this vein. So in here, these are the REA Fusion 2 panels. This is the premium panel. Now this actually is a bifacial panel, so that's the back of the panel. So the back has also got solar cell receptors, and these are an N-type TopCon. So these are optimized for low light conditions in the UK, just like today. So when the battery's on its feet, to stop it from toppling over, you have these brackets. These are sided left and right, and essentially the battery clicks onto these, and then there's a locking screw there to hold it on. Hang on a minute, actually that one, because the screw's on that side. So you lock it, and that just prevents the battery from tipping forward. Obviously it's a heavy battery. All the weight's taken by the feet. They aren't taking the weight of the battery, they're just stopping it from toppling over. So right now we're building this uni-strut tower, essentially frame, to take the brackets. We've just realised we've had to cut those slabs there because the battery's sitting a little bit low and it might touch these air source heat pump pipework. So we've cut a slab in half. It's going to spread the load further and just send our battery a little bit higher. Okay, so we're on the scaffolding, not on the roof. Technically on the roof we do that. Now, the guys have got all the rail on, and also you can see up here, Jack, these are all the micro-inverters. Now, as you can see, this is a slate roof. It's a proper slate roof, isn't it?
Yeah, natural slate.
Natural slate roof. So we've used a different mounting system like we mentioned before. So these plates, these sit on the roof. There's a rubber pad under there, and these actually screw on top of the tile, so you're not sort of compromising the weather tightness of the roof, which is obviously good for long-term durability of the roofing system. And this is the layout, so I don't know if you can see there, all these micro-inverters are numbered. So when we commission the system later on, what we'll do is we'll assign each micro-inverter to the array. What this does is give the client a full breakdown of which panel's performing. If they had got an issue with a panel, they can see the individual output of each panel. So on a string system, these would all be linked, and if one dropped, then the whole array would drop. So these are cool. Obviously they're a bit more money, but you get extra performance as well. So they turn on earlier and they shut down later because they only need 22 volts, I think it is, to activate. A normal string system needs a minimum input of about 200 volts. So you need quite a lot of sun before you get your system turning on. With this system, 22 volts, and you've got activation. Okay, so the next thing will be to get the panels on the roof, get them secured, and they're going to plug straight into each one of those micro-inverters. To get the panels on the roof, we use one of these. It's called a gym wheel, and essentially it's just an aid to get the panels up onto the scaffolding rather than carrying them up a ladder, because they're quite heavy, they're bifacial. So they weigh a bit more than a standard panel, and obviously a little bit difficult to manage, so we use one of those to get them up here. And we're going to get a shot once it's all done. This system's having bird proofing as well. So if you have PV fitted, especially around here, we've got lots of trees, you're going to get pigeons, you're going to get sparrows, all sorts of birds looking to nest under your solar panels. So on this system, we've got a spike that sits around the perimeter of the array, and that just stops any pests getting in and nesting under that system, but we'll get a shot of that later on. So this is the all-in-one that we showed you earlier on. We've now got it on the ground. We had to put it on these extra 2 pads here because it was just a little bit low. But that's all done, that's all settled, and the weight of the system is all on there now, so all the cells are in. This is the gateway. So the way this works is you've got 2 sets of tails coming in. So your tails from your incoming supply that would normally go to your fuse board now go to the gateway. And then you run tails back out and link to the tails that would go to your fuse board. So basically this is intercepting the supply from the grid to the main fuse board. Now what this does is a contactor in here. If the grid drops, this automatically, you wouldn't even notice it in home, will switch over to a backup supply, and depending on the capacity left in your battery, that's what will power your home. This does it all under this one unit here. So it's a really neat solution. Obviously we've got some Copex to go around these to sort of tidy it up and make it look nicer. What you do need, if you install one of these, there is no off-grid option. You can't have it, sorry, without the off-grid option. And to have the off-grid option, you need to put an earth in. So down here, the guys have put an earth spike in, and they're going to run the earth to it. So if the grid dropped power, not only do you lose the power from the grid, but you lose the earth. So all your appliances in your home, if they didn't have an earth spike in the ground, then you'd have no earth to the property while you're off grid. So obviously you can't do that. So we're going to put one in. So to give you some background to why this system is a 23 panel system with a 13.5 kilowatt hour battery with a 6 kilowatt hour transfer rate, and it's because the energy demands in this property are really high. It's using about 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. The average home in the UK uses about 3,500, and the culprit is this air source heat pump. So it's a 14 kilowatt air source heat pump, but obviously uses an awful lot of electricity. So we've designed a system to effectively knock as much as that energy demand out using these panels and this battery, so the client can have free energy, but this also can have free heating in their property. And it's just something to be aware. If you get an air source heat pump, they are 400% efficient, 300% efficient, depending on the time of the year. But electricity is 3 to 4 times the cost of gas. So if you're thinking about doing it from a saving perspective, you definitely want to consider having solar to complement this eco-friendly heating system. We were just checking the orientation for this array, and the way it's been designed and the way it's weighted has worked out really, really well, especially given the layout of the roof. So the majority of the panels, the 17 panels, are on the south-facing elevation, and then the remaining 6 are on this east elevation here. So you're going to get the sun rising in the morning, and that's going to give the client coverage, and the sun's going to come round, it's going to set some way over here. Because of the pitch of our roof and the lack of obstruction, we should get production pretty much throughout all of the sunlight. In an ideal world, you'd have some panels on the west side as well, and you get the very end of the day. But given that this array on the south face elevation is pretty wide, and we've got these REA Fusion 2 panels with the micro-inverters, we're pretty confident we're going to get production for all of the sunlight hours at this property. I wonder if you could maybe a big statue head.
Statue head?
So day 2, we're going to meet the guys on site now. We're hoping, well, it sort of has to be today. It gets finished. We're going to get all the panels on. We'll take a quick look at the panel when we get there and just show you why it's a bit different to a standard solar panel. And then we'll go through the commissioning process. We've been told by Give Energy that some of the early all-in-one batteries need a software update. I think it's to version 7. So we're going to try and get the power onto the battery pretty early doors to get that process done, because it can take a couple of hours to get the software updated, and we don't want to be doing that at the end of the day. But we'll be at site in 10 minutes time, and then we'll take a look around and go from there. So just wanted to quickly show you these REA panels we were talking about yesterday. So this is one of our panels here. Ow. That was very graceful rather. So what's sort of interesting about this panel is when it's not against another surface, it looks like it's got a white intersection, but it's actually got a clear intersection there. So this panel is a double glazed panel, and you've got these N-type TopCon cells on this side, and there's 16 transfer wires, which means you get a better flow of energy. But also on the back of the panel, I'll just turn it around. You've also got receptors on the back. So the same receptors that are on the front are on the back. The only difference is on the back, they're slightly blue. And the reason for that is a black solar panel is slightly less efficient than a blue colour solar panel. Now, for aesthetics, customers generally prefer a black panel. So on the front, the panel's black. On the back, we make it blue, and that's to maximise the amount of energy that we can harvest. And as you can see, sunlight would come through here, and you get a little bit of bounce back off the panel. This panel has been optimised to work with a micro-inverter. So if you put this with a traditional string system, you wouldn't actually get the same level of efficiency. It's been purposely designed to work with the M-Phase micro-inverter series. So just for a quick look at the panel, it's interesting. We're going to get them on the roof now. They've all been brought out of the van. There's 23 of them to get up, 6 on the back, 17 on the front. So in about an hour's time, we should have all those on, and then we'll take a look at them from there.
Ooh, today we're doing a slate roof, and we're using the limpets for the railing system. Saves a lot of time, and I think it looks a lot tidier as well. And we're using the micro-inverters for each individual panel. Clever little things, act as optimizers. So stops the string cutting out when shade hits each individual panel. So I think it costs a bit more, but it's worth more.
Have you worked on these systems before?
Yeah, a few times now.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's easy to do, and it looks tidy.
So the panels will just plug into the micro-inverters themselves, and then they just work individually instead of working in a string together, because if you put them all together, if one shuts down, it will just knock the rest of the string out, and you want to be able to have them working as efficient as possible. Better system, probably the best system you can get for efficiency wise anyway. Helps in the winter a lot more. Alright, so we'll put these two on, use that as a walkway, work from the top left, put that one on, and then throw the rest on the top, and then put that bottom one on last, so we've got a walkway. Yeah, and just plug in as we go along.
So panels are going on the roof now, all the inverters are on. What the guys have done is build this. This is an array map. So the benefit of this system is all the individual microinverters and panels work independently. No two panels are tied, but we need to build this for the client as part of the commissioning. So all the inverters have a number, and these are all the serial numbers. This is our East array here. What I've started to do is commission it on this app. So you simply go through and you start to build all of your serial numbers, and then we're going to assign them and create an array. Now when you do this, it's really good because what it'll do is it'll never scan the same serial number twice, so you can't really get this wrong. So that's all 23 microinverters in now, and now it's asking me to build the array, which we're going to do on the system. Now the next thing to do, once the panels go on, we're going to get the system energized, and then we do something called provisioning the devices, and this is where the devices look for the grid. We set the grid settings, the grid reference, and we'll start producing power. And at the end of this process, we can share this with the client, and they're going to get full access to their free monitoring with their system. So it's the end of the day, we've got the system on. The M-Phase system has just decided it wants to do an update while the system's, well, it's dark outside, which is brilliant. We tried to do it earlier on today and it's not done it, so we're just doing that right now, but our gateway's live. Just to show you inside the gateway, you've got your grid supply, you've got something called the bypass, so if this gateway ever failed, the bypass can be activated and it basically loops the grid to the load in the house and just bypasses this whole system. You've got your load. If you have an EV charger, you can put an EV charger on this. We've got our gateway powered off it at the moment with a double pole isolator, MCB rather. PV inverter, so that's our PV strings off our M-phase system going into this, and then our all-in-one, which is this here. So this is the all-in-one battery, which we showed you earlier on. We've got some isolators. The guys are just doing some stickering now. Once this has completed its update, then we'll be able to get the system live, and then we'll share that with the client. It's all done. So another successful install. It's been quite a long one, this. The Envoy, the M-phase system, decided to do an update literally as the light was fading, which has stole about an hour off the end of the day. Obviously it's going a little bit dark now, but all set up and running, everything's working in the property. Now, if you're interested in getting a quote for a system, whether it's going to be a standalone all-in-one battery that you want to charge off the grid, or you want a full PV system using our REA panels, then head over to heatable.co.uk, where you'll be able to get a fixed price online. Oh, this one, yeah, this is property in Milton Keynes, and it was me and Jack, I think, filmed this. This was a pretty impressive job. I think it's like 40 panels, and Michael Morocca from REA was actually over in the UK, and we did an interview on the roof about the Fusion 2s and how they can work all year round. So this is a good one, it's a good one, this. Just watch that ladder and that slate, completely pointless. Works, and why you should definitely consider Welcome back to another video, and it's another sunny day in the UK and another solar install. Now, the fact that it's raining, it's dull and it's miserable isn't going to be a problem for this customer, because they've gone for the REA Fusion 2 system that guarantees production all year round. And we've actually got Michael from REA all the way over from Australia. He's the owner of the company that produces these panels. He's come over today to come and see this property and to talk you through how his system works. Now, this is a pretty impressive property with a pretty impressive array. It's a 30 panel array over about 4 different elevations, and we've got a Tesla Powerwall too. Now, we've not filmed a Tesla before. We've fitted lots of them, but we've not actually filmed many of them. So what we're going to do now, take you to come look at the battery. We're then going to jump on the roof. We're going to run around the system. Michael's going to arrive. We're going to talk about his panels and how they are the absolute best choice here for the systems in the UK. And then we'll finish off talking to our engineer who's fitted the install. Sponsor a lot of footy teams and like rugby teams in the stadium. Okay, so this is our battery and electrical installation. Now, before we go on the roof, we thought we'd just take you through this, because this is pretty cool, because it's a Tesla. It's a Powerwall 2. So obviously we fit lots of the Give Energy all-in-one systems. This is sort of the OG of battery systems, and it offers the same sort of performance. It's just a higher quality bit of kit. Let me run you through how it works. So this is the actual battery cell, and it's got the inverter built into it. So it's an AC coupled battery, 13.5 kilowatt hours with a 5 kilowatt transfer rate for charge and discharge. So what that means, is if you think about a battery like a bathtub full of water, that would be the capacity in kilowatt hours. And if you think about the inverter as the plug and the drain, so you've got charge and discharge, that's the inverter. So 13.5 and 5 kilowatt inverter. Now, interestingly, on the Tesla, this inverter can actually spike to 7 kilowatt for about 20 seconds. So if you get a higher load, maybe you've got like an induction hob, or you've got a hot tub or whatever it is, that's going to give you a high load. This inverter can spike up when that initial load kicks in. So that's our battery. They look super cool, and they're stackable as well, so you can have multiple Teslas on one gateway. You can either have them side by side, we've done lots of them, we've put some photos online, or you can have them in front of each other. They look pretty cool as well because they light up when they're on. They've got like a green sort of power light when they're working. This is the Tesla gateway, so I'm going to come over here and take a look at it. So this normally goes next to your mains. The mains on this property is behind here, and what this does is give you full home backup. So your mains coming in from the grid are here and here. So you've got live and you've got neutral. So that's where your grid came into your house, it now goes into this. And then your home fuse board is also on this same buzz bar, and that goes out to your home fuse board. So this is like an interruption to your main supply. Also wired into this is the battery. Okay, so if the grid drops, let's say you have a grid event where the grid's gone off, bad weather, storm, or there's just a high load issue, this gateway will instantaneously click over and take you off grid. So it will divert power from the grid and take it from the battery and run your home, and it will power the home in that whole event. And it's all contained within this IP rated unit. It looks pretty cool, it's got the Tesla branding, and it keeps the installation really neat. It keeps accessories and components down to a low number, and obviously a great benefit of this is that it's under the same 10-year warranty that Tesla offer you, so you've not got any sort of third-party components that might cause any risk. You can padlock this as well, so if it's outside and you're worried that some kids are going to mess around with whatever, it is padlockable and you can isolate it that way. Just one more thing about the Tesla battery. When batteries get cold, they perform worse and some shut down. That is not the case with Tesla. This battery's actually got a heating element built into it, and it's got a fan cooling system as well. So in this garage, it's probably not that relevant, but if your battery's outside and it goes below 0 degrees, it'll stop charging and discharging. And with a Tesla unit, because it's got this heater built into it, it's going to keep working. Other components in this install: Envoy for our REA solar system, so the actual ACMs on the roof, the modules, all report back to this. This is the data communication feed. You've got your isolators here for your solar array. Obviously there's a 30 panel system this. What we've done on this install, not me, but what the guys have done, is they've put a sub-mains up in the loft area where all of the feeds for the PV come into, and they run it down in AC here into this AC isolator. We've got our battery isolator and a completely pointless MCS regulatory generation meter, which is a total waste of money, but it's the regs. So that is our install. What we're going to do now is jump on the roof. We'll take you around the array and show you how we've laid it out and why we've done it. And we've also got Michael coming from REA all the way from Australia, has come over to see some of our installs. He's going to talk you through why our panel is different, how it performs in the UK, and why you should only have it when you have solar installed for your home. Okay, so just to run you through this job and to give you an idea why it's been designed in the way it's been designed, is what we try and do at Heatable is give sort of full day generation. To do that, the sun rises in the east and then sets in the west. So south is that way, so the sun in the morning is going to come up there and it's going to go around this property and it's going to set on the west elevation. Because it's a very steep pitch, obviously there's some challenges here around shading and making sure we get generation throughout the day. So what we've done, we've got 2 panels there and they're on the east elevation, and then we're going to walk around here, Jack. So we've got one on the left hand side, I don't know if you can see it from there. Cool. You've got these 5 on the east here. We've got 10 on this southerly elevation here. Now when the sun is round facing these, they're going to pick up, they're going to pick up. We've also got 2 on the westerly elevation up here, so that's the opposite side to the original dormer. So that's going to get generation in the evening. We've placed these panels on the southerly elevation really high, so when the sun comes round in the evening, we should get some generation on those. If you come round here, just watch that ladder and that slate. Panel here. Now again, on a DC system, this would be really tricky because you've got one panel on its own. You would have to string it up with the others, but if it got some shading from that dormer, it would knock it off, so you couldn't do that. That's why you need this REA system. So if you come around here, this is the west elevation, and we've got 8 panels up here. So as the sun sets in the evening, these 8 panels, plus the ones on the top, and we've got that westerly panel on the other side, they're going to pick up the evening sun. So what we'll get here is a really linear power curve on this property. You'll get generation first thing and you'll get generation right through to the end of the day. And obviously with these REA panels, even on days like today when it's really mixed weather, it's been pretty miserable this morning, this system is currently firing and is running this home, which you wouldn't get with a DC system. Just before we carry on with this video, please do remember to like and subscribe because it helps us produce more of these videos. Or if you don't like the video, give it a thumbs down, anything just to get the algorithm pumping. So we're now on the roof and we've got Michael from REA Australia has come over to the UK, come to have a chat about our partnership and also come round to see some of the installs. And this is the first one we're taking a look at. So, like we said when we were down on the ground before, we've got a Tesla battery on this one and it's a 30 panel array. I suppose what we've got for Michael is some questions about the system, the design, how these panels work and how this is different from a DC system because in the UK, quite a lot of the systems are DC.
Yeah.
Probably, I think it's the same in Australia, is it?
Definitely would be majority DC.
Right, cool, no worries. And the difference, so for people who are watching this video now, we talk a lot about AC, we talk a lot about AC modules, we talk a lot about your panel technology, but can you just break down the basics between DC and AC and why having this is a better option than having DC?
For sure. So the very first thing that we talk about is about the technology or topology of the system, and it's in simple terms, it is the world's only circuit protected system. So what that basically means is that it's like driving a car with airbags and seatbelts, or no airbags and no seatbelts. Obviously, many years ago we did drive cars without them, but for obvious reasons why now they're mandatory to have seatbelts and airbags. So a lot of people don't understand that a DC system where we have panels on the roof down to a single inverter is not circuit protected. So what that basically means is that if anything is wrong with the house, or if you have a tradesperson in the roof working on the home and you turn the main switch off or you pull the fuse in the street, everything in the house needs to be completely off. Currently in the UK, solar is the only thing that you can install in the home and not require circuit protection. So you turn that switch off, everything on the roof is still live all the way down to that inverter.
And then what that has as a side effect is you get a lot of high voltage coming down those cables.
Correct.
And where that is also a safety concern, it's also a concern for production.
Yes.
Because this system here, we've got 30 panels. So you've got east generation. We've got south generation. This will also pick up the south, and then we've got the west generation for the evening. On a DC system, it wouldn't really be possible to lay this out like this, would it, without affecting performance?
Not at all. And in the UK, obviously, it's even more difficult to have the panels running at their optimum voltage. So if you have a panel that's roughly 40 volts, when you connect a second panel, you're 80 volts, and so on and so on. So you need a minimum roughly of around about 200 volts to be able to optimize the system performance. Now, if you only have the space to do 4 panels on one face, you don't have enough voltage to ever run it at 100%.
So Heatable fit the REA system, the AC module system in the UK, and we guarantee production 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Whereas on a DC system, you couldn't do that.
One panel operates at roughly 40 volts, but we can operate down to around 12 volts. So what that means is that days like today, every panel operating independently, they can still produce some energy and convert that into the home, when again a conventional system needs a minimum amount of voltage just to operate.
So in this sort of light, for a DC system, those panels on that west side now, in the east side, sorry, in the morning, they're not going to fire.
No.
Whereas this system is now producing energy. What we noticed, because we've got some DC systems on the system, really bad days, the DC systems don't turn on. The AC systems, your system does turn on, but when the DC systems are on, yours turns on earlier and then stays on for about 40 minutes longer. Is that just the panel efficiency, or why would it stay on?
So essentially there's a few things within the system. The first is obviously the technology where it operates at what we call individual maximum power point tracking. So again, the inverter tracks the whole system together. We track every panel independently. So we have a bigger window or operating window within the micro-inverter to be able to convert the energy. The second thing is the bifacial panel. So we have a clear glass bifacial module, which means that we're activating the cells on the front and on the back. So we're getting that refractive and oblique light to again keep the voltage as high as possible, keep the microinverter underneath on as long as possible, generate more energy.
So when people think about bifacial panels, they think about a very binary through the clear section and bouncing back. It's not. It's the power of the radiation traveling through the sets of cells.
Correct.
That's collecting it.
It's about
Right.
it's like having more sticky surfaces to be able to activate those electrons through photosynthesis, and for us to be able to do that as much as possible increases the overall system performance. So in Australia, where we have almost perfect weather, we generally see between 25 and 30% more performance on the identical phases. Every single panel that comes out of the factory is differently rated. So most other manufacturers have a plus or minus 3% power tolerance. It can be plus or minus 3% of that panel rating.
Right, okay.
We're only plus percent. So if you have 10 panels, you might have 3 or 4 panels that are overperforming, but in a conventional system, it operates at the lowest performing panel. So if you have overperforming panels, if you have, like in Australia, the center panels will operate hotter, which means we have a reduction in the performance, it will drag the whole system down. When with the AC system or the REA system, you get the maximum efficiency or performance capability of every panel independently because they're all added up together.
Standard panel would overheat and
Yes.
then the coefficiency would drop.
But because they're all connected in series, the inverter's maximum power point tracker needs to take the lowest panel and add them all up at that lowest panel's rating. When we don't. We can have super performing panels and panels that are performing just above average, and they can all be added up.
Yeah, we sort of market it like every panel's its own power plant.
It is.
It's a panel and an inverter in one. They come as a unit.
Yeah.
And that unit is fully independent of the rest of the system. So
Yes.
on here now, if this one was clipping some shade or south, when the sun is coming south now,
Yeah.
this dormer here is going to cover this first panel.
Yeah.
It's not going to drag down the rest of the array.
That's right.
So that's 25 years it's warranted for. So when you're making an investment and you look and say, well, you've still got all these ancillary costs a part of your job if someone's doing it properly. Obviously, Heatable do a high standard of service and we have a high quality job. So every job should look like this if you're using someone else. But these costs are still here, whether you're using a cheap DC panel and a cheap inverter than it is to use a premium bit of kit and have the performance. And on a day like today, where we've just granted the sun's just come out for a moment, but it's pretty much miserable everywhere else, your DC system's not turning on.
No.
This is producing power and currently running the home.
No single point of failure. So what that means is if there is a panel issue, say to birds pooing on a panel or something like that, then it's not going to affect the performance of the system. If there's an issue with the battery, if there's an issue with a microinverter, again, that only affects that one panel. With a conventional system, you're producing nothing. So if you're generating, say, 20 kilowatt hours per day, our system, if one panel goes down, might be producing 19 kilowatt hours. You wouldn't even notice it. With a conventional system, you're going to produce 0 every single day that system's down. When we look at statistics globally, the average failure rate of an inverter is actually every quarter, every 3 months. And the reason being is because people don't realize it's off until they get their big power bill. Now, if that happens once in 25 years, and the statistics show it happens every day, all of a sudden that extra savings you think you saved up front are gone. And that's once. So if that happens more than once a year, the systems are more expensive.
Yeah, it's a big issue as well, isn't it, with trying to find the problem. So if on your system, if that panel failed, on the app it'd flash up and say, well, this panel's down, it's got an X through it, or it goes black, I think, doesn't it, on the app. On a DC system now, you would be here putting all this scaffolding up and going, right, we've got to test every single panel.
You've essentially got to uninstall the whole system. And the thing is that the panel manufacturer won't pay you to do that. So the homeowner is responsible for paying those costs, for identifying the problem. Once the problem is identified, then it should be covered under warranty if you can prove it as well. So what we have found in experience with other panel manufacturers is that they require the data from day one to be able to benchmark how the panel performed. We can provide that data in 5-minute increments from day one to 25 years or whatever. So we can prove if and when the performance of the performance of the system failed.
So on a DC system, all you would see is a steady decline, and then it would eventually go off. You would never know the reason it's failed and which one has failed. So I think multiple benefits. That's why we're so bought into it as a technology. Really appreciate you coming down. It's great. Obviously, we've got a couple of meetings later on and stuff, but we just thought we'd take you to this job. It's an interesting job. We're going to walk around now, probably finish off filming the battery. We'll take a look at the app once it's live, and then we'll catch you from there.
Sounds good.
All right.
Right, hi, I'm Jez from J Cook Limited. We've been fitting solar panels for the best part of 2 years now. We've been onboarded with Heatable for about 6 months, I'd say. It's been great working with them. We've fitted numerous amounts of different systems for them. I mean, they're a great company to work with. Everyone in the office really helpful. So this installation is I think Ben's talked you through. We've got a Tesla 13.5 kilowatt battery with a gateway, M-phase 30 420 watt REA panels on the roof with micro-inverters. I really like these panels, the efficiency, because they're 20%, they're the bifacial ones, so they're 20% more efficient. So for every 5th panel, in theory, you're getting a 6th one for free. But yeah, they're really good to install, really simple. The micro-inverter system is just a plug-and-play system on the AC inverter.
So we hope you enjoyed that video. It might have been a bit long because Michael wanted to tell you all the features of his panel. If you've got any questions for Heatable or Michael from REA, then leave a comment below. And obviously, if you're in the market for solar or you want to get a quote to see how much it's going to cost and how much it could save, then go over to heatable.co.uk and we'll be able to give you a fixed online price. I remember this was like 7 months ago, which is crazy in itself. But anyway, this was on site with Artisan Electrics. So they've got a massive channel on YouTube. They did an install for us and we went along and filmed it. And we were talking about like the dangers of DC cables. And we got this little TENS machine and we did some like challenges while we were trying to make off an MC4 while getting shocked. Good day, I enjoyed it and I think you'll enjoy this.
So let me introduce you to...
On my ball patch, I feel like a terrible news anchor with this microphone. Sorry. Okay, so it's another day, another video, and another solar install. Now today is a little bit different because we're being joined by Artisan Electrics. So they have got a massive YouTube channel, much bigger than the Heatable channel, and they get lots of subscribers, not like us, because everyone always watches the videos, but they never subscribe, so please do that. Now this is a little bit different because the guys have come down today to learn about N-phase. So at Heatable, pretty much all of our installs have the REA Fusion 2 panel, the high performance panel that's built for the UK, but we pair that with an N-phase microinverter. Now installing N-phase is different to installing DC, so our installation partners, J Cook, are going to show these guys how we install this N-phase system and how it's going to produce more energy. Let's go and take a look at the array. Right, so we're on the roof now, the guys have put the hooks in and now we're going to put the rail on and we're going to get a demonstration, real life demonstration on how your hook fixes to your rail. So, do you want to talk us through it?
Yep, first off you have to just pull the rail out, push pin in.
Adjustable height?
Adjustable height, all the way.
How do you know what height to adjust it to?
Because I know how thick the panels are. So normally I go for about 13 and 5, and then with a panel as well, then when you put your bird proofing on, you're not having to mess about with it too much, you just put it straight on.
Right, okay, cool. And if your roof is sort of giving a little bit, you can straighten it up with this?
Yeah, you can adjust each height as you go along, so it's all level the whole way across.
Right, okay, cool. Just like that, fantastic. So what we're doing here is took these tiles out because we've got to get the cables off the array down to where we're going to put the battery and the incoming supply. The issue is we're not sure whether the board under here is asbestos or not. So the guys took the tiles out, so we're just working out a bit of a plan for that to get the cable entry through. Just while we're here as well, come over here. So this comes up all the time, which is when you're doing brackets about having them sitting flush, and a lot of customers ask us all the time, I've got my bracket, I want you to grind the tile out. What you need to be aware when you're doing that is if you've not got enough meat on your tile, see this tile here has got a load of meat on it. So when we're cutting that tile away, we're not going to compromise the strength of the tile. When you've got really thin tiles, you can't do it. And you have to make a judgment whether you're going to cut them, flash them, whether it's going to sit just higher, is the bracket going to go? So it's just something to bear in mind. People ask it all the time, like you can see on this job. Don't know if you can zoom in there, Soph. These are all ground away and it's nice and tucked and everything's nice and flashed, but that's because we've got a lot of meat on that tile. Black rails as well, looking snazzy. So next thing is now get the rest of these rails on, put the micro-inverters on, fit the panels. This is an 8-panel array with a 5.7 kilowatt hour alpha Smile 5 battery, so really good battery, dead reliable. If you're a PV installer and you want a reliable battery solution, you need to be looking at Alpha. Obviously it's got the M-phase microinverter system on this, and we're going to put an IP rated board outside, so all the electrical equipment, the sub-mains, the CTs are all going to go in a nice little enclosure outside, so we'll check that out in a minute. Right, so sit rep. Batteries installed, and this is your first one, it's all level. Super proud of that.
Very.
Yeah, look at this. Fantastic, it's all nice and secure to the wall. So that's really good. No, I've come for, when we were on the roof,
Yes.
we were looking at where you're going to do your cable entry, and I've overheard that there's an issue for cable. So do you want to talk us through it?
A little bit.
Go on.
So what we're trying to do, we're trying to fish into the cavity to then pull it up onto the roof to save getting through that asbestos board, or what I suspect to be asbestos board.
And how's that going?
Hard work.
Hard work.
So far I've drilled one hole and hit a lintel.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's more challenging than what we thought.
And this is the cable for the PV array to come down, and obviously we're joking about the battery. We've not actually installed the battery like this. Battery's going to go here, is it?
Yes.
Inverter above.
Inverter above, and then we're going to put an adaptable box in to the left.
What's going to go in the box?
Our fuse board that will run your inverter, your PV system, and your M-phase.
And where's the incoming supply?
The incoming supply is the other side of the house. So we've pulled a 10mm cable
Right.
into the loft,
Yeah.
through the loft, and then that will come out with our PV.
And we missed that for filming. Well done, so.
We could fabricate.
Should we go back and pretend that we did that at the same time?
Yeah. We can go round.
Right, so 10mm coming down,
Yes.
straight into here,
Yes.
into your box. You're going to work out how to get there, and you're not going to drill into asbestos.
Try not to.
You heard that on screen? We just joked that we hadn't filmed this before to make it look real for YouTube, but we have actually filmed it, haven't we?
We have indeed.
Yes. So, just talk us through. Our array's on the other side of the roof. You've got your power, your sub-mains, your battery over there, but you've got to get everything to this incoming supply.
We do.
So, tell us in your own words how that works.
So what we'll have to do, we'll have to chop into the house feed, the tails, put these into something called a Henley block to then feed our cut out fuse.
So what does that do?
This will rate the cable,
Right,
protect the cable.
right, because you always fuse a cable to
Down.
the cable size.
Exactly that.
Right.
So we've run a 10mm to feed our board the other side. That can't carry 100 amps, so we're obviously going to have to fuse it down. Hence,
Fuse it to,
we'll fuse it to 63.
which is these
It's
cartridges.
one of these little shotgun cartridges.
Right. Cool, so that goes into there. That is the supply cable for
Our sub-mains the other side.
your sub-mains, and that's just an armoured cable,
Yeah.
10mm 3-core.
Exactly.
And then,
This is for our ARC10Rs,
which are?
the CT monitoring devices for the alphas.
Right, okay. And if Jez wasn't a cheapskate, Jez would have bought you some EV
Ultra,
which
so we could
is
have ran one cable.
one cable, and it has Cat 5 built
Inside.
into it. Yeah, but because Jez is tight, he's not spent the money, has he?
He hasn't.
So he's made these poor lads pull these datas through here. Cool, fantastic. So you're going to cut this later on,
Indeed.
and that'll make our system live.
Will indeed.
Thank you very much. 3, 2, 1.
That was halfway through before you could have done that in 2 seconds. I should have let it lead it. I don't know what happened. Yours is vibrating the thing that much, you can get on it. Like a hot knife through butter, as they say.
To make it more efficient and a quick way to combat. And whether it's working or not. Right, so we just got 5 minutes on the roof. We're here with Jordan from Artisan Electrics, and this is your first end-phase install, is it?
That's it, yeah.
So panels are on the roof now. The team are just doing the sub-mains, the battery. So this is your first end-phase sort of job you've been on, but you've got some end-phase coming up, I believe?
Yeah, so we're looking to potentially include this as part of our standard package because we can see the advantages in terms of speed of install and the other benefits with, you know, the end-phase kind of optimization and improved generation.
And the safety as well of the AC, because you don't get the DC cable coming down. Solar Edge does sort of do that, doesn't it, I suppose, because it has rapid shutdown for DC, but you've still got a hybrid inverter. Yeah, so this is a bit different. And this is the first time you've seen the Fusion 2 panel?
Yeah.
So we did a little piece on your channel before just for going through the panel and the advantages. So this one here, this is the 420 bifacial. There is a 440 coming out in a couple of months, and there's also going to be something called an ACM. So it's going to be this panel with the IQ8HC actually bonded to the panel from factory. It's going to be an end-phase endorsed product. So in terms of speed, obviously you've seen this today, it's basically just plug and play. The ACM is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be part of the panel, so it should be even faster to install. And because it's going to be the 440 with the HC, it'll be even higher output panel as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs. But yeah, we're going to run around now. We're going to get the video wrapped up. If we finish it today, we'll do an outro today. If not, we'll be in a different t-shirt tomorrow. Right, okay, so we've got a bit of a challenge. We're going to see who can terminate an MC4 quicker, Heatable or Artisan Electrics. But to make it a little bit more different, we've brought one of these. It's a TENS machine. It's going to give them a shock while they're carrying out the challenge. So we've got Jez from J Cook, and we've got is it Jord? No.
Oh mate, you don't even know my name.
Go on, what is it?
Ruben.
Ruben, sorry. Ruben from Artisan. I'm going to go straight to it now.
Oh, that's weird.
Can you feel it?
Oh yeah.
That's
weird. Oh, I'm not even moving, Mom.
Oh really?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Ah, yeah.
How am I supposed to unclip it?
I've been done.
Finished? Yeah, done.
Oh, right.
Oh, mate. I couldn't even.
Yeah, I can do
that. Mate.
Well done.
Oh,
Team sports.
that is horrible. Oh, mate.
That was a killer.
Mate, my arm's still moving.
Wow. Put that on you. I just want you to feel how it's like, mate. That's a killer.
Do it slowly.
Ah, it's mine.
Why isn't it?
How'd you do A?
Press A and then
Oh.
Oh shit!
How bad is that? Gritting my teeth. I'm going to put my teeth through.
Is this going to blow my Apple Watch up? Wow! I must be. Oh yeah, yeah.
That is properly like having a belt, honestly. That is. Oh!
Yeah? Right, okay, so it's been a pretty long day. We're almost done. We're ready to commission. This is the battery finished and installed. Earlier on when we were on the roof, we said we were going to put a box out here with the sub-mains, the isolator and the Envoy. That's the box that controls the end phase. We didn't do it because aesthetically it wasn't going to look great. Because this is a bungalow and everything's nice and accessible, we've put that in the loft. So all we've got down here now is the isolator for the battery. So if the client wants to isolate the battery, they can do that here. Now, just to run over this battery really quickly, this is the Alpha ESS. So at Heatable, we fit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. They're super reliable. Out of all the batteries that we do, they're online and break down the least. This is the Smile 5. So this is a 5 kilowatt hybrid inverter that we AC couple for this system, because obviously Enphase is an AC system, therefore we need an AC coupled battery, and this has that functionality built in. And this is the module down here, so it's a 5.7 kilowatt hour module. You can stack these, you can have up to 5.7, so what's that, 26, 27 kilowatt hours of storage, and you get a 5 kilowatt transfer rate, so it's a really powerful battery. There's a newer version coming out in a couple of months, and that's called the G3 and the G5 series. So it's pretty similar in its chemistry, it's just got a slightly different makeup of the battery, which means it can charge and discharge a bit faster, so we'll do a review on them. But as far as a battery system for your home, if you've got an AC coupled system, then you definitely want to be considering these Alpha batteries.
So let me introduce you to this is Ben, co-founder of Heatable.
Yeah.
He's going to tell us a bit more about these panels and what's so unique about them, because on the front they look pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
But flip them around and on the back there's something quite unique about these, so tell us.
So pretty much all panels use the same cell technology. You've got two types, one's called P-type, one's called N-type. This is an N-type panel, so the more premium cell of the two variants. The main difference with this panel compared to a conventional panel is it's bifacial. So on this side, on the front side, it's rated at 420 watts and it's positively tested, so it's a minimum of 420, not plus or minus. On the back, you've got the exact same cells that are on the front on the back of the panel. What the panel also features is a clear intersection. So if you can see there, my hand moving around. So as you've got light in the atmosphere hitting this panel, it's obviously got light all the way around the panel, and you're going to get that extra generation. Where it really comes in is when it's really high intense light. So on a nice summer's day, generally black facing panels will drop in performance. With these panels, the front will maybe drop because it's a black panel, but the back will pick up that extra performance. So in sort of like high temperatures or high efficiency light, you get much more performance.
So you're talking about reflected light off the back of the roof, basically, is that how it works?
I think it's one of the benefits. It's something that people get caught up on bifacial, is they'll say, look, the roof's going to be sat there, it's a grey roof, it's not going to do anything. It's not so much about that. It's the best way I can describe it is like the stickiness of the cells. So UV light, wickedly powerful, high radiation. When it hits a panel, it doesn't just bounce off, it goes through that panel. And this is a triple layer cell, and it's basically designed to capture as much light on the way through. Any residual bounce back that comes through, that's an additional benefit. You know, light on the side, ambient light flying around, you're going to get some pickup. The challenge with solar panels is that cell efficiency is about as good as it can sort of get. You're limited by the square footage of the panel. What we've done here with this panel, what REA have done, is they've put it on the front, they've put it on the back, they've put the highest efficiency cell in. What you also get as an additional benefit is it's glazed on both sides, so it's fully insulated, so shock, risk, delamination, all those problems are now gone. So it's a really, really effective panel.
Nice. And I saw a video where you guys basically put a normal panel on an array of bifacial panels.
Yeah.
And the effect was quite significant in the extra, well, the extra generation from the bifacial, or
Yeah.
you could say the lower amount of generation from the non.
For the non-panel, yeah. So basically what happened was I smashed a panel on the day. It was actually my fault. And because these are a pretty unique panel, they're not stocked everywhere. So we went to a merchant and bought a generic 420 watt panel because we wanted to get the array on for the client, put it on, but because we're using the N-phase system, you can see every individual panel's performance. And straight away, something we didn't realise was that we were getting about 20% more generation on this panel, same roof, using the same inverter, compared to a generic DC panel. So if you do get more out of them when you pair them with them. But yeah,
like a 40 volt panel or something?
I think they're 42, I think. And finally, just before we shoot off, this is the array installed on the roof. So it's an 8-panel system, really simple install, 4 panels at the bottom, 4 panels above, lots of space around. We've got bird proofing on here as well, so this bird protection just stops sort of pests or rodents getting under the panels and nesting, and our N-phase micro-inverters are under there. The most important thing about this system is the REA Fusion 2 panels. So these are these high performance panels that are designed to work in a low light condition. So right now, sort of 5 o'clock, sun's going down. A DC system will be looking to shut down because the voltage across the array is going to drop. These panels with N-phase microinverters is going to keep on producing energy. So if you're buying solar, whether it's from Heatable or someone else, definitely buy a high performance panel and go for the microinverter system. This is a good one. This is the catalyst for another partnership with another YouTuber. So from memory, this is a job where the guy called Harry had a Give Energy all-in-one, and he was charging it up at night, using it to power his home in the day, but he wanted to add some generation. And he was someone who was a sort of guest on another YouTube channel called EV Man. And we went along and we fitted, I think it was 8 panels on his roof, and we had some challenges because the scaffolding that we booked didn't turn up, and we managed to get someone on the same day to come and install it. Anyway, this is sort of the start of a really good partnership, accidentally. It's a pretty interesting video about modular solar systems, so let's get into it. So we've come over to this property today. We are in, where are we? Yorkshire, and this is a property where this client is building his solar system in stages. So what he's already had installed is a Give Energy all-in-one. So this is the battery that's got the gateway with the full home backup. It's 13.5 kilowatt hours. And what the client's been doing is charging the battery up at night on a cheap tariff and then using that energy throughout the day. Now, what we're doing today is we're going to add solar panels to this client's system. So what he's going to do, he's going to put 8 panels on the front of his property. That's going to come off the roof, and we're going to be able to wire it into the Give Energy all-in-one. Now, that's an AC coupled system. We're going to go through what that means in a minute. But what we're going to do is add some PV generation so we can charge the battery from the PV and just top it up at night. So after filming that intro, we've just arrived and we've just realised we're actually testing something brand new on this property today, and this is camouflage scaffolding. So if you just pan around there, what you'll notice, you can't actually see the scaffolding, and that's because the scaffolders let us down, hasn't turned up. So the office are arranging some now. We think we found someone. They're going to be here in about an hour's time. This happens from time to time. It's super frustrating. If you are a reliable scaffolder, then please reach out to the channel. Cool, so we're in the garage. I just wanted to run you through what an AC coupled battery system is. We were talking about charging the battery at night. So this originally, I think this has been in for about a year, and it's been a battery only system. So if you come over here, this is the gateway. So this is the customer's fuse board for their house, and that's being supplied from the grid. Interrupting that is this unit here. So this has got the battery connected to it, it does have a breaker for the PV we're going to put in, and it's got the load and the grid side. So basically, if the power drops, where we are here, it's pretty rural, so the power does drop. This kicks in and powers the home from the battery. And what this customer's been doing is charging the battery up on an overnight cheap tariff, and that's been powering his home. The battery's down here, so if you come down here, because we're on the top of the hill and it basically gets freezing up here, the snow can be like 2 or 3 foot. It gets pretty cold in this garage. So the customer has put the battery here, you can see it? Yeah, and he's wrapped it up in this tank jacket. The reason you do that is when batteries get cold, like EVs, they slow down, or sometimes they can switch off. So even though it's in a garage, because of where it is and it's so exposed here, the temperature can drop to like -10 and that will shut down. So he's just got it in a little jacket. But what's interesting about this is that this sort of system demonstrates that you can do your renewable journey in stages. So this client's been charging his battery off the grid, saving loads of money, using that cheap overnight energy, and now we're going to add the PV in. He's going to get even more generation, which means he needs to buy less from the grid. But what he's been able to do is do it in stages, and you can get 0% VAT on batteries now. So previously you would have had to have paid VAT to have a battery only system installed. That's changed of about February 2020, no, the end of last year, 2023. So there's no VAT to pay, so it's made it even more affordable. Okay, so cavalry has arrived 12 minutes early. This is Clayton Scaffolding from Rosendale, who've turned up within an hour and a half of us realising scaffolding wasn't going to come today. They've arrived, they're going to get it up. What the guys have done in the meantime, rather than just standing around and wasting the day, we've actually pretty much done most of the electrics in the garage. So we've even got the cable from the roof down through the property into the garage, the subboard's on, the Envoy's on, the generation meter's going on. We've got something to cover on that in a minute. So we're thinking half an hour-ish, something like that, scaffolding will be up. The electrics will be done, and it's going to be jumping on the roof, and we'll go and take a look on there when we get the rails on and get these REA Fusion 2 panels installed. Okay, so install is now finished. It's live, 4 o'clock, so timings were absolutely perfect. Scaffolders got us out of a bit of a sticky situation there, and we got it done in time. So system is currently on and working. We're producing about 1 kilowatt, which is pretty impressive because it's pretty miserable out there. We've tried to use the drone to get some footage, but it's so windy, the drone's just blowing around, so we thought we'd just take you over the install here. So, to cover it off, this is the Envoy. This is the piece of equipment that Enphase talks to that's going to be giving you all the readings on your smartphone or on your desktop. And you've got some indication lights on here. We've got our submains. We've got a generation meter. Now, I mentioned earlier on about the generation meters. For any installers that are watching this video, we had our annual MCS reassessment yesterday, and our assessor from NAPIT told us that you no longer need to fit generation meters on solar PV jobs if you've got a piece of equipment that will actually record the generation itself. We've put one on here because we bought it and it was just, we weren't going to take it back. Okay, the other thing that we've done is we've put the supply into the Give Energy all-in-one. So early on we were mentioning about the fact that the Give Energy all-in-one has the ability to read PV. So how we've wired this system is we've brought a 4mm off the roof into this submains, and then we've taken a feed from the submains into the Give Energy breaker here on the PV, and this comes pre-wired with a CT clamp around this PV breaker, so you can view your solar generation in your Give Energy app. But more importantly, what you can do is now this client can charge this battery from his solar system. So right now there's an indicator on the Give Energy battery systems, you ever have one? So this is showing right now that the battery and the load are being taken care of by the solar and the PV. So the solar PV rather is taking care of the load, and the battery is also charging from the property. There's nothing coming from the grid. So even on a day like this, there's nothing coming from the grid. So it's all set up, it's all working. We're going to put some shots on now of the system on the roof. What we wanted to sort of point out really is what this has really demonstrated is that you can do systems on a modular basis now. Now that the VAT has gone on batteries, if you want to start with either solar first, you have your solar system installed and you want to add a battery later on, you need to be considering, if you're going to do it that way around, which inverter you're going to fit, but we can give you advice on that. Or maybe you want to put a battery only in first, like this AC coupled Give Energy, and then later on you can add the PV as this customer has done today. This was already here, we didn't install this Give Energy all-in-one, this was installed by someone else. But it's all functioning and we've been able to wire the end phase and integrate it into that single ecosystem. We thought we'd just show you this. This is the back end of the N-phase monitoring platform for the solar PV of this installation. Now this is a really handy tool. What's great about N-phase is you can see every single panel's individual performance, and if you've got a problem with a panel, or maybe a panel's underperforming, it's easy to identify the issue on this software. Obviously, if you have a standard system, you're not going to see that. All you're going to see is the combined production value. You wouldn't even see a layout of your panels like this. You're just going to see what it's doing at that moment in time. What we wanted to show you here was in 42 days of complete generation between the 22nd of March and the 2nd of May, this system did 431 kilowatt hours. Now, the reason that number on the right-hand side down here is a little bit higher is because the system went live at about 4 o'clock on the 21st of March. And obviously today I've excluded because it's only halfway through the day and therefore it's not really fair because we're trying to work out what it's producing per day. 431 kilowatt hours. If we divide that by 42 days, this array, it's only 8 panels and it's averaging 10.2 kilowatt hours of production per day from just 8 panels. Now, if you divide that by the 8 panels, you can get to a panel level production of about 1.3 kilowatt hours per panel. Where this is really impressive is this property is actually facing 50 degrees away from south. So this is the actual orientation. So north at the top, south at the bottom. This array actually faces the east, the southeast. So the sun would rise over here, come round and set on this side. But obviously by the time the sun sort of gets to about the 12 o'clock position, the amount of light hitting those panels is going to dramatically reduce. The reason we're able to produce so much energy is these are very high efficient, high performance panels. It's also paired with the N-phase micro-inverters. Now these are able to activate in very low light and very low voltages, which means our system can stay on and it can keep producing. So I just thought that was really interesting to show you that even if you've got a small array like this, 8 panels, you can still produce a whole load of energy, and even if your roof doesn't face the ideal way. So we hope that was a useful video in showing you how you can have your system modular if you're going to install renewables in your property. Now, interestingly, on Heatable, in the next couple of weeks, or maybe if you're watching this, it might already be live, we're actually got a battery only offering where you can go online and you can just buy a battery like this Give Energy all-in-one or a Tesla Powerwall. You can buy that online first, have that installed, and if you later want to add one of our AC coupled solar systems, then you can do that. Alternatively, if you've already got PV and you're looking to add a battery to it, then you can go onto the website and get a quote to have one installed. So this was a property who we'd done his dad's house, and this was the son, and he lived in Birmingham way, and we fitted, I think it was like 18 panels on a south facing array. It was in winter, it was miserable as usual in the UK, it was a nightmare filming in. But anyway, we ended up fitting the panels and then we shared the results of the production. So with N-phase, you can see what each panel's doing, and we shared with you sort of how much generation they were making, showing the local weather. It was a pretty interesting video, to be honest, and his system still performs really, really well. It's one of our best ones on the portal. So this is a typical British winter's day. We've got some sun peering through the trees and it's also raining. Now, a question that we get asked all the time is why do people have solar fitted in the UK if this is our weather system? Well, the question really should be, what system are people selecting to have installed on their homes when they live in the UK? And if you see weather like this all the time, then maybe you should think about the system that you're having selected for your property. Now we're going to head over to one of our installs today where we're fitting REA Fusion 2 panels combined with micro-inverters. Now these panels are specifically designed to work in the UK environment, and that's because they're optimized for low light situations. So the answer to your question is yes, you should have solar fitted, but you should definitely select a product that's going to optimize and perform in this environment. So let's head over to that install now and we'll see how this system works and give you some more information on how a system like this can perform for you in weather like today. So we've arrived in what has turned out to be a sunny Birmingham, although there's a little bit of cloud up there. The property is just behind you here and the panels are on the roof. The battery is going into the garage at the moment. We've had a bit of a nightmare with that because we've had to run the supply. This is a Give Energy all-in-one battery, so it's got the gateway, which means it's got full home backup. But to do that, you need to take the supply from the incoming tails and get that to the gateway. Where everything was located was a little bit more tricky than we'd hoped, so it has took a few extra days to get this job done, but we'll take a look at that in a minute. Okay, so we're now on the roof and here are our panels. They've all been installed with some bird protection. We'll come back to that shortly. Now, just to give you some background to the design on this array, what we've done is we've put 16 panels on this back roof. So the orientation of this south is about sort of there. It's 10:15 in the morning. The sun's just over, so the sun's going to come round. It's going to set somewhere in that direction over there. So this array here is going to get a lot of the morning sun, the day sun, and also the evening sun, so generation throughout the day. What we've also done is we've put 2 panels on the front. There's a little mini apex, we'll take a look at it in a minute. We've put 2 panels there, so that's going to give it some extra morning generation. Just because the way the property sort of sits, its orientation, we've just designed it in a way to get the maximum amount of generation we can. These are the REA Fusion 2 panels. Now to look at, they look pretty much like any solar panel on the market, but they are a lot different. And that's because of 2 or 3 things. One of them is their cell technology. So they're an N-type TopCon HJT cell. It's a cell basically that was designed by Panasonic about probably 20 years ago. And it used to be really, really expensive. Because of production improvements and because of the popularity of solar, production costs have dropped, and REA Australia, who actually make these panels, have now got these in for a price point which is about the same as pretty much any other high quality panel on the market. So on a traditional sort of DC panel, a direct current panel, they are designed with a very top heavy efficiency window, and that's because they're built under something called global design principles. So when you buy a solar panel in the UK, that solar panel will be designed globally to work in Spain, it'll be South Africa, North America, South America. What REA did is design their cells and their panels to have a lower optimization window, because obviously in the UK, we rarely get full days of sun, and when we do, everyone runs to the beach, and we know how rare those occasions are. So what we wanted was a panel that was going to perform when the UK environment is like this, and this is what they do. Now also what they have to improve their efficiency is they're a bifacial panel, so there's cells on the front here, but the exact same cells are actually on the back of the panels. Now it comes up all the time that people say, well, that panel's against the roof and it doesn't really make any difference because there's not, it's too close to the roof and the roof's a dark colour, it's going to absorb the light. In theory, that sort of makes sense, but in practicality, it does actually work, and we've got some testing going on at the moment in the UK with these panels where we've got standard systems, mono panels against these, and the performance difference is about 18%. Now in Australia, there's actually a research project going on at the moment with the Queensland University where they've got all sorts of panels being tested, and again, they're getting a similar result. Because how it works, in between the panel here, it actually looks black, but if you come around here, Jack, you can just see, I don't know if you can see that, you can just see the frame popping through there, and that's because this intersection here is actually clear. There's my finger there. So these intersections across the panel are allowing light to come through, and if you can just see there, you can actually see little bars of light popping through the panel, so they are allowing light to transfer behind the panel, and that's being captured on the cells behind. Now when it works really well is on a really bright sunny day, the light, when it hits the panel, everyone thinks it just gets absorbed and it just bounces back, but obviously light is such a powerful energy source, it actually goes through the panel and those cells capture it on both sides. Another design feature of this panel would be the transfer window, the transfer wires. All these cells that are sat on here, these will collect energy, and then that energy needs to be transferred to something called a buzz bar, and the buzz bar is where the energy is then transferred to the inverter. Most panels have an 8-wire transfer design, a cable transfer. These are a 16-wire design, so they're much more efficient. And our final piece of the puzzle is a micro-inverter. So behind every one of these panels, there is a micro-inverter built onto the back of the panel. Now what that micro-inverter does is it converts DC from the panel locally into AC current, because our homes use AC. We can't use the power from the panels directly, it needs to be converted. Normally this is done with a central inverter, but in the case of Heatable, we do this with micro-inverters. Now, the real advantage of micro-inverters is the fact that they have a very low voltage startup. So this panel has been designed to kick in at low operational light situations. I've paired that with a micro-inverter that also requires low volts to activate. Now, that means that we can capture energy in pretty much any condition. In fact, at Heatable, we've never had a day where we've not had generation from any of our systems, and we've actually got a system at the very top of Inverness, and that client 365 days a year gets generation. With a DC system where you've got a central inverter, they need sort of 200 to 300 volts just to turn on. So you need an awful lot of power on these panels just to get the inverter to kick over from DC to AC. On these micro-inverters with these panels, you only need 12 volts. So it's a fraction of what you'd need on a DC system. And what it also gives you is full panel independence. So if you come round here a minute, and just take a look up there, you can see the chimney is shading the top right hand side panel. It's casting a shadow on that panel. Now, with this system, every individual panel is its own power plant, so they're not connected to one another. On a DC system, they're all connected. What it means is if one of them has got partial shading or has, I don't know, bird poo, or it has a cloud passing across the array, then the whole system works to the lowest common denominator. So right now, even though all these 15 panels are unaffected by this chimney, if this was a DC system, all 16 rather, would be performing at the same level as that panel which has got shading. Whereas on this roof, these 15 are unaffected, and this one, why it's got some shade where the sun is currently performing lower. As the sun comes round, that'll recover, but importantly, it's not affecting these other panels. This is the absolute best solution, and it's because it's been specifically designed for our environment. So probably in 2 hours' time, it'll be raining here and the light might drop away. These panels are still going to perform. They also, aesthetically, they look great. They're an all black design. When you stand the panel up, it looks white because of the clear intersection, but actually when you have them on the roof, they just look pure black, and they're going to give you the performance that you need to make sure you get the best bang for the buck with your solar system. That's our panels. Now, if you've got any questions about them, you want to have the spec sheet on them, just drop the office an email or comment below on this video and we'll be able to come back to you on that. What we're going to go and do now is look at the battery system, take a look how that's been installed, and then finally at the end of the video, we're going to take a look at how we design this system, and also once it's live on the end phase monitoring system, because a further advantage of this system is that you can see every panel's individual performance. With our system, we can identify any issues with any panels, but more importantly, it's not going to affect the rest of the array. So I just wanted to show you the 2 panels that we put on this east-facing roof up here. So there's actually 2 panels on this sort of outrigger section of the property. And again, with a micro-inverter system, you can do this. You can place 2 panels or even 1 panel on its own, because it's got an inverter behind the actual panel itself, so it doesn't need to have a load of voltage to kick a main inverter over. You could never do that with a DC system, but on a micro-inverter system, every panel is its own power plant. Now, the reason they have been placed there is if you pan behind you, again now sort of 10:30 in the morning, the sun is over there, and these 2 panels are in full direct sunlight of the actual sun. So they're going to be collecting energy, and as the sun moves round to the back of the property, those back panels are going to pick up the performance. So this is a real advantage of using this type of technology. When you combine that with these REA Fusion 2 panels, you're going to get the best system for your home. So we were talking before about the Give Energy all-in-one battery. This battery actually features something called full home backup. So in the event of a power failure, the actual battery itself can flick over and power the home. But to do that, it needs to be able to look to the grid and pick up where the incoming supply comes in. Now, the battery on this property has been sited round the corner in the garage, which has meant we've had to run the tails from the incoming supply all the way to that battery's location. So this is our incoming supply here. We've run this Copex, and what we've done, we've had to dig a trench all the way along the front of the property, around this supply box, down the side here, and then what we've had to do is then go under the paving into the back of the garage to get to our battery. So it's a much more complex install than we'd originally envisioned, but look, it's what the client wanted. The client wants full home backup, and that's what you need to do in these scenarios. So we're in the garage, and this is our battery system. Now, this is the Give Energy all-in-one. What we showed you before was we ran the main supply from the home to the gateway, and then the gateway is then attached to the battery. What I want to show you now, because I thought it's quite interesting, is how this battery is made up. So right here, we've took one of the cells out, which they are very heavy, but there's 4 of them. And they plug in basically like a drawer to make up the total capacity of this battery. But cover on this just sort of snaps on, and then you've got 2 little retaining screws that just go in. Though I'm so out of breath, I'm not a very fit person, but I've been on holiday. I suppose what's good about this battery as well is because the cells are sort of individual, from a warranty perspective, pretty easy to swap, really. I mean, it's almost a DIY job, although you definitely do not want to open one of these up without turning it off, because it's very high voltage. You know, obviously batteries wear out over a period of time, and traditionally you'd have to change the whole battery, but with these you just buy new cassettes, and you know, possibly that cassette technology might improve over time, and maybe there'll be like a retrofit solution for them. But as it is now, it's a very, very good bit of kit. The guys are just doing what's called the Henley block now. So they're just doing where the incoming supply comes in, they're attaching that to like a high voltage junction box, and that'll give the power down the line to here. And then we'll be able to commission it. So it might take you through that process depending on how time goes. If not, we'll be back in a minute and we'll take a look at the gateway. We are now at the stage where we're going to start to do some commissioning, and the first thing we're going to do is this end-phase Envoy, and we're going to do all of our micro-inverters, provision them, set the array out. But to do that, you needed to have collected off your micro-inverters all the serial numbers. Now, if this is ever your first end-phase job, I guarantee you will put all the panels down, put all the inverters on, and forget to take the stickers off and build your array. So don't forget to do this. We've used this very expensive piece of cardboard. You can buy these online. if you want to make your own, we have done. So this is our array. So this is our top 16 panels, and then we've got the 2 east panels here. The Enphase app is really easy to use. So it gives you this little feature, and you just go beep. But they're all scanned in now, so dead easy. When you do it on this as well, what's really, really good about it is you can't scan the same serial number twice. You can type them out if you want, but it takes forever. Just scanning them is much easier. So when the client logs into his Enphase app, he'll want to see which panels are which ones are performing well, which ones maybe got some shading. When you build the array, knowing the position of each microinverter, that's what dictates which panel is where. So obviously what we're expecting to see on this property is that top right-hand panel near that chimney may in the morning, or it should do in the morning, perform slightly worse than the rest of the panels. As the sun comes round, that'll fix. This is a microinverter system, so just because that one panel is having some partial shading, might have reduced performance, the rest of the array isn't going to get affected. Whereas on a DC system, it would be affected, it'll drag the whole thing down. Okay, so we're going to build a little bit of the array now. So our top left panel ends in 435, so that's going to be 435. The next one along is 792, so you just assign it, find 792, and essentially you just keep going and building your array like that. It gets easier as you go, because once you've assigned a panel, it removes it from the list. So this one up here, this is the chimney panel, if you like, the one that's going to get the partial shading. So this ends in 980, so we'll come back to that later on to show you how the performance of that panel may differ from the rest of the array. So our next job now is to connect this gateway to the client's Wi-Fi. To do that, you need to put it into access point mode. So you press that button there and it'll light this green light up. And it's asking us now to join the Envoy. Just realised I've got one glove on. It's a bit wacko-jacko, that, isn't it? Failed, right. Okay, so this is our gateway. So when you've got the battery, which is down there, this is connected to the gateway, and the gateway essentially is the control mechanism for if the power drops, and it also controls the battery at the moment. I think Give Energy are actually going to release it in the future where this is going to be an optional product. So the Tesla Powerwalls have gateways, but they're an optional accessory. The purpose of the gateway is this. The incoming supply from the grid goes into the gateway. It goes across a buzz bar, which is an electrical connection, down to our load. Okay, and then the battery is actually wired straight in to the gateway as well. Now, if this sensed that the grid had dropped, what it does, quicker than you could blink, is kick over to the battery. So it cuts the grid, and it'll kick the battery on to supply the property to the point where you wouldn't even see the lights flicker at home. Now, obviously this is only useful if you've got reserve charge in your battery. What you can do on the Give Energy app is set a minimum reserve charge in the event that you're going to have a power cut. Now, if you live in a rural area where you get lots of power cuts, it's probably worth keeping the reserve charge. If you live somewhere like here where it's unlikely, although apparently it did happen a couple of months ago, you might want to keep a smaller reserve charge. Once the grid is restored, this will automatically kick back for you as well. Now, why this has to happen is if the grid dropped and there's a fault on the line somewhere, the reason this disconnects from the grid is that if someone was working on that line down the road and your battery is potentially discharging, or your PV system is discharging power into the grid, they get a shock, and obviously that wouldn't be great. So the purpose of this kit is to instantaneously switch on and switch off from the grid. So it's a really, really good bit of kit. It also comes pre-metered with your meters come pre-wired, so your grid and your PV supplies are all pre-wired straight into this system. So it's a really, really good bit of kit. We're going to commission it now, and we'll show you it working on the app shortly. Battery is done. We've managed to do the software update and the commissioning, which took about an hour and a half. We went to go and get a coffee because it was taking forever. A lot of these Give Energy batteries are all on the old BMS. I think it was BMS 5. It now goes on to either 6 or 7. We've put this one on to 7. Same with the Gateway. You've got to do the commissioning on both of the, the software updates on both of the products. Also, the N-Phase Envoy also needed an update, so the whole thing took a little bit longer than we'd like. But anyway, it's done. Wanted to show you something quick, which is our new stickers, which is probably really boring and completely insignificant to most people, but we quite like them. So come over here. Look at these. We get a lot of these where we're going outside and we were putting stickers on and they were coming off, which was a bit of a stupid idea. So we've changed now and we've got these, which are, that one's just come off.
Quite easy to pull off.
They're quite easy to pull off, you see, which is quite good. I didn't take the sticker back off that one. But there you go, it's designed to show you. You can see it, look. Oh. So you put them on there, push them on, then they don't come off. There you go. Battery isolator, Envoy. We've had them all custom made, look at this. You see that? Solar Envoy in here. All very, very good. And we've got a shutdown procedure as well. And obviously this is an REA system, so we've had those done from REA. Battery's done. This is your Wi-Fi dongle on your battery as well. You might see these on some of the Give Energy stuff, but definitely on the all-in-one. This is a magnetic, it's a little antenna. It just does the Wi-Fi connection to your home router. This property, because it's in the garage, we've had to put a Wi-Fi extender in. Well, the client put it in actually, so it just makes sure you get a strong signal. Right, so we're done here now. The battery's live, the battery's commissioned, the N-Phase system is live and it's commissioned. If you look really closely, I don't know if you can see that. That's how you can see the performance of every individual panel. Now, this is on the engineer version of the app. That's our 2 easterly panels, and there are 16 on the rear roof there. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna head back to the office. We're probably not gonna film it today because it's Friday. We've got to get from Birmingham to Warrington, so it's gonna be a nightmare. But on Monday or Tuesday, we'll log on, check how the system's performed, and we'll take you through how you can check and investigate every single panel's individual performance on the N-Phase app. Okay, so we made it back to the office. The weather was terrible on the way home and at the end of that first day, and it's still pretty miserable now, but what we have got is 4 days worth of data of the system performing. Now, as we said on the video shoot when we were there on the day, we designed this system in a particular way, and that was to get some morning production and try and get production throughout the day. So this is what you're going to see. If you have one of these systems fitted by Heatable, you'll get access to this high level data that you don't get with a normal system. So we've got 2 panels on the east array here, so they're going to capture the morning sun, and they're going to be supplemented by that Give Energy's battery power from the night before to help cover any home loads. And as the sun comes round, it's picking up on these rear panels. Now, what you can see on this screen here is each individual panel, and like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, you don't get this on a standard DC hybrid system. You can only see the gross power production. So what we can see, these numbers here, are the performance of each individual panel, and as you can see, they're all pretty consistent with the exception of this east panel array, which only got 3.16 compared to its neighbour that got 3.45. Now, sorry, this is a 2-day period that we've got data over here for. The gross system production over those 2 days was 52.5 kilowatt hours, so really, really strong. But what we want to know is, why is this panel slightly underperformed? Well, because we've got this data, we can actually take a look and have a look at what was going on. So if we click in here, what we can see is on the second, so on the first full day, this panel only produced 265 watt compared to its neighbour, which produced quite a bit more. When we've taken a look into that, we've actually taken a look and realised that the grid profile within that particular panel wasn't actually set. It took some time to catch up, and that's why it underperformed. What's really important here is because that one panel slightly underperformed, it didn't affect the rest of the array. And with a DC system, that would not be the case. If you had a DC system, what you would see in your back end or your app or your software is just this screen here. So what you're producing right now is a gross net figure. If you're exporting it or consuming it in the home, what you would never know is your system underperforming for any particular reasons, or if you had a panel go out, you wouldn't be able to find from the app which panel had actually failed because there isn't individual panel monitoring. Where this becomes an issue and where we have some DC systems installed is some days it's super sunny, super bright, you'll take a look at your app and think, why am I only doing a kilowatt? With a DC system, you wouldn't be able to find out why you're only doing a kilowatt. With this Enphase system, with the REA Fusion 2 system, you can log in, have a look, oh, I've got a panel, it's got bird muck on it, or whatever it is, that's what's causing the underperformance. So from a diagnostic perspective, it's really useful for us as engineers here in the office to monitor and make sure your system is performing at the maximum output. And also for a client, if you have a fault or you have underperformance, it's really easy to identify which panel is actually causing the problem. And finally, again, importantly, if there was one panel that failed, with this system, the other 17 in this case are going to be on and performing, whereas with a DC system, that whole array is going to shut down. You're going to be looking up at your roof going, which one of these is causing the issue? So if you're interested in getting a quote for one of these systems, and you can do it online, you don't need to have a salesman in home, just head over to heatable.co.uk. You can draw your roof, you can play around with it, you can see your savings, and you can get a fixed price to have this kit installed at your property. This video marked a real shift in our solar installations, and I also love that coat. I must get it out the wardrobe. Anyway, this was our first ever hybrid install, and this was, going back to that previous video, or the one before last rather, with EV Man. This is his brother's house. His brother unfortunately got ill and had saved up for solar, got ill, spent the money on paying his bills. And we stepped in and we gave him a solar system to sort of help him out. He was a really nice guy, but we did it as a hybrid. So 8 panels or 10 panels, and it went into a hybrid inverter. He's still only got PV, he's not added a battery yet, but a nice heartwarming video. To the present day, it's in technology was it with hell. Go from start again. Hi everyone. (1954) is a significant year for 2 industries. One of them is the automotive industry, where we see Mercedes-Benz launch the world's first supercar, the 300 SL. But also in 1954, we see Bell Industries launch the world's first commercially viable solar panel. Now, when you compare both of these industries side by side, and you look at the motor car from 1954 to the present day, it's unrecognisable. But that's not the same for solar panels. So for about 60 years, development was largely static as demand was relatively low. That's changed in the last 10 years, and one company that stands out is an Australian designer and manufacturer of solar panels called REA Pty. Now REA have a product which they sell in the UK called the Fusion 2 solar panel, and today we're going to go and see the latest version. This is a 440 watt bifacial panel, which is an N-type cell construction, but it also features something called HJT. Now HJT means it's a heterojunction cell, and what that means is there's 3 layers of silicon wafers that all combine to give you the maximum efficiency for your solar panels. Now today we're down in Essex, and we're going to go and view someone's property where we're installing some of these panels on their roof, and we're also going to meet another YouTube channel, a guy called EV Man. We're actually doing this job for his brother, and this is going to be the first property in the UK where we're installing these 440 watt panels, and we're going to show you how these are different and how you can install these on your property. So we've just arrived here on site. The team are currently installing the roofing mounting system. We'll take a look at that in a second. And as we mentioned earlier, not only are we installing the 440 watt panels here, we've actually paired them with something different. So normally Heatable installs will only ever install the N-phase micro-inverters. However, we are bringing a slightly more affordable solution to the market by pairing these high performance panels, not to micro-inverters, but to hybrid inverters. So this property here is having 8 panels installed. We're going to connect that to a Give Energy 3.6 Generation 3 hybrid inverter, and there's no battery on this job. Now, the benefit of installing a hybrid inverter rather than a string inverter is if later down the line the client wants to add a battery, that inverter is ready to go to just simply plug a battery into the DC side of the actual inverter itself. So it's quite a flexible solution. Again, if you're looking to do your install in stages, so you want to add the panels first or a battery first and then add panels, this sort of technology allows you to do that.
Send down your fires and waters, go on and rip the sky out, but not today.
Right, so we're in the loft. It's pretty tight space up here and I've got cramps, so we have to make this pretty quick. But this is our 3.6 hybrid inverter. So this works the same way as any inverter. It converts DC energy into usable AC. What a hybrid inverter does is you can have the DC power off the roof go straight into the battery. You don't have to convert it back to AC, then to DC to store it. You can just store it straight in DC. So they're a bit more efficient on the battery side. The downside of a hybrid inverter is that you need quite a lot of voltage to activate the inverter just to kick on. Now the benefit of the system we've got here is because we're using these REA Fusion 2, the 440 watt panels, you're going to get that voltage pretty much straight away. So, you know, we're massive advocates for micro-inverter systems and definitely massive advocates for the REA panels, especially with the high efficiency they bring. If you're going to install a string system, don't fit it with a cheap panel. EV Man actually on his own channel has fitted a Give Energy hybrid inverter with some cheap panels, and he gets pretty average performance out of it. We've installed installed some panels on a property around the corner from his house where he's got 8 panels compared to EV Man's 14, and we're producing more with 8 panels than we are with 14 cheap panels, so definitely worth investing in your panels. This is a pretty simple install, pretty straightforward because there's no battery, but I'll just run you through how it's going to work. So the DC is going to come through the flashing in the roof. That's going to drop straight down. So there'll be 2 cables because only 1 string, so there'll be 1 positive, 1 negative. They drop into that DC isolator there. That then DC runs into our inverter. So there's your colour in there on the DC cables. DC goes in, converted to AC, and comes out here on the AC side of the inverter, and that'll go back down to our fuse board. There is also going to be an AC isolator there as well. Later on, if the client wants to add a battery onto this, it's really simple. There's basically Give Energy do a couple of versions of their battery systems. Most suitable for here, probably a 5.2 or a 9.5, the Gen 2 batteries. And they just plug straight into the bottom of the inverter. It's almost like a DIY job really. It's super simple to do. You need to configure it in the Give Energy app to let it know it's got a battery as well. Nice straightforward install, keeps everything out the way. Benefit of putting this inverter in the loft as well. DC, like we said before, high voltage, it can be dangerous. We've limited the amount of DC cabling on this property because there's only a very short run from the roof to this inverter. We're not running it all the way through the home. The guys are just drilling the panels down now, so it's quite noisy. just while we've got 5 minutes, while the guys are just putting their panels on the roof, I just wanted to show you the differences between an AC system and a DC system. And largely it comes down to the cabling and the way that the cable or the power comes off the roof. So if you have a DC system, you'll have a cable like this, and this is a single core, double insulated. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Single core, double insulated 4mm cable. And to install this cable and to connect it, you need something called an MC4. And that's that clip there. So an MC4 is the industry standard for solar for a connection. To install an MC4, well, a lot of people get this wrong, is they don't use a proper crimping tool. So this is the insert that you actually install onto the MC4, and you need a proper calibrated crimper to actually install it. Where people have problems with DC and where you get arcing and you do get some sort of sparks and fires when it's installed incorrectly is when people don't use the proper crimping tools. So for a DC system, that's the cabling. You'd have single core, one is positive, one is negative, because it's polarity based as opposed to a live and neutral. And this is an AC system. So if you have an M-phase micro-inverter, you have an AC system. These plug into the inverters, and this is the AC connection, 230 volt. And this is now a 2-core, because it's a double insulated inverter. It doesn't need an earth, and you've got live and you've got neutral in there. So that's a 2.5mm 2-core cable. The difference here is that from the panel on an AC system, you're going to convert it from DC on the panel to AC immediately. With a DC system that I've just dropped, you're going to bring it down off the roof in DC via these 2 cables on your MC4s into your inverter. So that's the main difference, just 2 different solutions. One's a bit safer using the AC system. This one is a bit cheaper to install. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So inverter is in a loft. We've just taken a look at that. What we need to get down from the loft area is the AC power to power this property, and to do that we need to run a cable. What's been really useful on this job, and we never get on any job, is the client had already got a draw wire in the property, so we're going to be able to connect our cable to that draw wire, fish it through. It means we don't have to pull any floorboards up, we've not got to make any holes to get the cables in, so it's made it super simple. But essentially that AC cable will come down here, that'll drop in into a mini switchboard, and then that will be powering the property. So time now is 2:30, panels are on the roof, the guys are just finishing off winding up the inverter. We reckon in about an hour and a half we'll be live, and we should still make the daylight and we'll have the system running. So the array is now on. The guys are just about to energize it. We're about 15 minutes away, but we thought we'd just show you these 440 panels. So what's super interesting about these is they're the same footprint as the standard 420 panel. They're just a higher efficiency cell. So these feature something called HJT cell technology. Basically what that means is it's a more efficient cell. It's a triple layer. So as the sun comes down, obviously UV radiation is super powerful. It doesn't just hit the panel and get absorbed in one go. It's that powerful, it'll actually go through the cell. With a HJT cell, you have 3 layers. So you've got your outer layer, you've got your monocrystalline layer, and then you've also got a wafer thin layer on the back of the actual panel itself. And that's what gives it the high efficiency. Still, a dual-sided panel, so still bifacial, still has the clear intersections, and it's still in the same footprint. Now what's really interesting also about REA panels is that they're tested to a positive tolerance. So this is something that's not widely reported in the solar industry, but if you buy a 400 watt panel, what that means generally is it will be tested plus or minus sort of 3 to 4%. So it could be underperforming, and that's how manufacturers get away with claiming higher outputs. With REA, they are all positively tested. So what that means is the absolute minimum in this case is 440 watt on the front side. You're not going to get any variance where it could perform under. Also, REA panels are all tested by TUV, so it's done in a standardised system, and every panel is tested. They don't just do sort of samples per batches, they test every panel. So our 8 panels on here now, they're all installed. They're going to get connected to this Give Energy 3.6 inverter. We're going to get that live, we'll show you the app, and yeah, we're all done. Looking good. So another successful install. Now, I say this is a bit different because we've done a hybrid system here. If you're looking for a quote for a hybrid system or a micro-inverter system, then head over to heatable.co.uk. And I would also recommend subscribing to the EV Man channel because we're doing lots of content on this install and its long-term performance down here in Essex. Tesla Powerwall 3 installation, the first one I think that was ever done in the UK. Well, we'll claim it was anyway. More importantly, I actually wasn't in this video, and it's one of our best performers, so that does tell you something about my YouTube career. Anyway, this was a really important moment again for Heatable because the Powerwall 3 has been such a predominant product in our lineup since this video. I think we are number 1 or number 2 in the UK for actual Powerwall installation. So going from there to be number 1 or 2 in that short space is a really amazing achievement, and this video started it all. There is no handle, is there? No, make it corner. Take the one to the unit. Right, switch it off.
Welcome back to another Heatable classic. Today you're getting a front row seat to Heatable's first Powerwall 3 consumer install.
Right, come on.
To the sofa, yeah.
Give this still my favourite to fit as an installer.
Right, okay. Right, so we're here today to install Heatable's first Tesla Powerwall 3. We're here with Eddie. We're going to be installing a handful of these over the next few weeks, so really excited to get stuck into the first one. That's better, isn't it?
That's good, yeah. Now this was a big moment for Heatable and Tesla, and so they sent someone down to keep an eye on things and show off their lovely new dolly.
I made a boo-boo with it, mate.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm going to the wholesalers. Right, so we just got the battery mounted, gateways mounted. Now the customer has just got planning permission to knock down a wall and extend part of their garage. So that does mean the whole electrical supply for their house is going to shift over about 3 foot. So our original plan of putting the battery right below the electrical supply out the window. So what we need to do now is we need to go and get some more cable, bit of trunking. We're just going to tidy up the electrics that he's currently got sort of dangling loose, waiting for his electrician to move his fuse board. So I'm just going to nip out to the wholesalers now and grab those bits. So it's a slight delay in the day, but that's just part of it. You know, every job's a little bit different. You don't really know until you get cracking into these things how it's going to all turn out. So on our way now, it's absolutely it down. So it's, I'm soaking wet. I didn't bring a coat like an idiot. So we'll see what we can get done now.
Top off her Jeep. The one I
Best cleaner at J Cook. Yeah, to do a nice, easy install, to do it properly, test and commission. Yeah, you're talking, I'd have said, best part of the day. Yeah, this is a nice location. You know what I mean? You're close proximity to your mains, which is always a benefit. And so the gateway has to go near the mains anyway. But if you can have the battery close to that as well, it's a nice, simple install. There's no getting cables from A to B, which is the majority of the time taken up on these installs. It's getting cables from A to B. So.
Right, we just pulled back up now, so let's try and get all this new kit back in and try and catch up with the time we've just lost. Let's get in.
We are currently just just first fixing the gateway cables, so the tails back and from the supply. So we get the supply from the main meter, and then we're going to go back to supply the house. And then we've just installed the battery carcass, and we're just looking to link that into the gateway now.
With Eddie now back with the trunking and cables, they got to work with mounting the containment. Meanwhile, two fellas had shown up asking a suspicious amount of questions about cables.
You alright?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Liam. You're Aaron.
Yes.
This is Aaron. So, what are you doing?
We've been invited here today, so Doncaster Cables, that's where we've come from over in Doncaster. We've developed various innovative cables in the past few years. One of them was Powerwall Connect, which was for the previous version of the Tesla Powerwall unit. And we've been invited here today to look at the Generation 3 unit and see what features we can bring with a new cable, which will make the install quicker, neater and easier, hopefully.
So they've been about forever and a day. They're like one of the big boys on the market for cable manufacturing. Now we're into the Powerwall 3 era. They've not yet got a cable for it. They've got one planned, they've got samples, they've got one design ready to go. They're just trying to tweak that design to make it as efficient as possible for the new Powerwall 3.
How's it going today?
So far it's been good. It's been good to see the unit, first time we've seen one. Some differences from the previous version. And so far we think we'll be successful in getting something that'll make it a bit easier for people.
Should we go take a look?
Yes, let's go and take a
look. You've already
look.
had a look, but I want to get a look at this thing. Come on then. Wow. So here it is. It's happening. It's all going on. Like the Super Bowl of the battery world. That right there is the Powerwall. Can you see it? Mental. Wires all over the place. Very cool.
So, as Spencer and Jez installed a bit of 100mm trunking,
Installed in a bit of 100mm trunking.
Jez hinted at a bit of magic in the air.
Right, do me a favour. Yeah. I'll show you a trick in a minute. Go and get a bit of offcut of 20mm tube or something. Yeah. Cut it 100mm. 100mm. 100mm, bit of tube. Yeah. I'll show you a little trick, mate.
Right, he's going to do a trick! Everyone out, he's going to do a trick!
Spen is fine. Spenny, yeah.
Spenny, yeah? Cutting this...
20mm.
20mm.
Black conduit, yeah. Jez is going to show me a trick apparently. It's a bit of a mystery, I don't really know what he's going to do with it. But...
Yeah, we're going to see a trick soon.
Where's the trick? Where you got the tube? No, it's not a trick. It's just old cables in.
That. Did we see that? I think we might need to get the slow motion on that because that was mental. That was absolutely mental.
Yeah, just stop scared. So basically, when you're wiring,
yep.
Yeah, just put it in. Cut it to sound into the trunk and it starts pulling out.
Maybe you should tell me what you're going to do before I make a big one.
I wouldn't say it's a trick. No.
What did you think of the trick?
Anticlimactic?
Yeah.
It's good if no one's seen it before, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty neat. It didn't change your worldview or anything.
It'd probably be better if all the cables weren't cable tied already and held in place.
It is quite a neat job already, yeah. What is this?
Right, isolator. AC isolator.
Now, that one's going to go next.
Just a way of disconnecting the AC supply between the mains and the battery. It's literally just a bit of plastic, mate, with a bit of metal bits in it. Yeah.
High tech. Wow, that is
off, mate. I know.
Oh my
God.
God.
Nice and technical, mate.
You'll have the shit stop this through.
Thank you, Chris. Oh, thank you so much, good sir.
Lovely job. Thank you very much.
Coffees.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so obviously anything that's new is exciting. A little bit anxious that I'm being used as a bit of a guinea pig. But yeah, no, it's cool. Looking forward to seeing it, finally work and seeing the house go off grid completely. Yeah, so I think the one of the key things and one of the reasons why I went for the Tesla was it's kind of one app, so it'll all integrate into one app rather than using multiple apps. You can monitor everything in one place, look at consumption, things like that. And I think technology, if you look at kind of renewable energy, battery storage in particular, I feel like Tesla, have been there for a number of years in comparison to some of the, smaller manufacturers in the UK perhaps. So yeah, I think that was one of the main reasons why I went for the Tesla over another manufacturer.
So we're here now, we're getting towards the end of the install. Been here for a few hours. I've had 3 coffees and I'm seeing through space and time. Bacon butties, bloody delicious. That was a real, genuine human act of peer-to-peer kindness. How is the bacon sandwich?
It's good. It's white bread. It's bad for you, but it tastes the best, doesn't it?
Exactly. Plates and plates of bacon butties. That is dedication to humanity. Dedication to love thy neighbour, trust in the friend, an eye for an eye, bacon for bacon, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. At the end of the day, really.
With the AC isolator in place and the whole system grounded to the main earthing terminal, all that was left was some finishing touches on the wiring. Wrapping ferrite cores around the main conductors to protect the components from any electromagnetic interference, and setting up the backup and non-backup sides of the gateway.
Yes, so you've got backup and non-backup sides on this, so in event of mains failing, it goes off grid, anything juicy bits of kit, so normally like EV chargers or air source heat pumps won't be part of the backup side, so it'll only output to everything that's on the crucial and non-crucial is the way I describe it.
Right, so we're all the wiring's in now. We're just going to power on now and get some testing done, and then just get the commissioning started. Bang! 0.17, somehow lower than the one I recorded on. I'm going to start commissioning now, so I'm going to get out the Tesla app. We have a nice little app called Tesla One. So this is how we set the system up, we tell it to do what it needs to be doing, so let me just get this started.
Right, so here, yeah, end of the day. Just about to put the lid on, so we've finished. We've got the gateway here installed. We've put a non-backup supply ready for some air source heat pumps in the future, and we've got our battery in our main supply here. We've installed a new Tesla Powerwall 3. We've got AC isolator and an earth stake there. Nice and easy. Really good install. Really looking forward to fitting some more of these over the next few weeks. As easy as the Powerwall 2 to set up as well. Really good bit of kit. A lot more room than the Powerwall 2, because in the Powerwall 2 you only had a little section on the side, whereas this big section in the top, so you've got plenty of room for your cabling.
So we're getting closer to the end of the year now, and another big moment for the channel. Summer's nearly over, not that we really had one, but anyway, we collaborated with Everything Electric because this is the launch of the REA Fusion 2 ACM. So that's that panel that's got the micro-inverter bonded to it from factory. It's endorsed by Enphase, and it's the most powerful ACM in the world, and we were so proud of it that we got Everything Electric involved. We ended up going to the show and we documented the whole install. So you will definitely enjoy this, and especially if you're interested in ACMs.
Why did you say it was
So welcome back to another video, and today it's another solar install. Now we've not been doing many of these on the channel recently because we've been doing lots of other content, but the reason we're doing this one today is because we're here with the ACM. This is the REA and Enphase collaboration for the panel with the built-in microinverter. It's a 19 panel array. No, it's not, it's an 18 panel array split over 2 elevations, and it's got a Give Energy all-in-one battery. We always seem to film this battery on our install videos. We do other batteries. We're gonna have lots of other Tesla content coming soon. Let's go and take a look in here and we'll take you around the install. So we're here, and here are our 2 elevations. Now, scaffolding is already up. All the panels are in the van there, those ACMs. We're going to come back to those a little bit in the video because I want to take you through what they are and why they are different. But right now we're going to go and check out the battery install, because this Give Energy all-in-one battery is an AC coupled battery, and it's got the gateway, meaning it can go off grid. To wire that, it's a bit more complex. Let's go and check it out and we'll take you through how the guys are getting on. So there's 2.
Yes.
So one of them's
a battery.
Yeah.
And one of them's the solar.
Yeah, so these two here.
Yeah.
So one of these is going to go to the battery.
Yeah.
And the other one is the solar into there.
Well, yeah.
Why did you say it was wrong? Yeah, because you've got two strings.
Yes.
So you're going to combine them because you've only got one input for solar on here.
Exactly that.
So when I said
Battery and solar.
battery and
was
solar,
correct.
but you said solar and battery. Right. Okay.
Tomato, tomato.
You're making me lose my mind then. I was like, and back and forth, back again. Back over here. Right, so my mind's still a little bit blown from Jack saying that one cable was for the solar and one cable was for the battery, and I said one cable was for the battery and he said one cable was for the solar. But anyway, we're over that now. Like, what I'm going to do now is just take you through the run of the cables on this property. So the battery and the solar run down here. So they come in there, they're going to get clipped along this wall. Just watch out. We've also got some data cable. So you have data going to the gateway and the battery, and also to the N-phase CT to measure the grid supply. Our battery is going to be located there. So this is the Give Energy all-in-one. That's the 13.5 kilowatt hour battery. Now the reason we've got two armoured cables going from the gateway to the battery itself is because this is two arrays. So there is 9 panels on that roof, 9 panels on this roof. The Give Energy all-in-one only has one. So the reason we've got two cables going from the battery to the gateway is because the gateway is what measures the solar production for the Give Energy app. So you need to therefore put the solar power through the gateway. So what we're gonna do is install a sub-mains here, put both PVs in, and then take a 6mm feed out to the gateway. So we've only got one input into that gateway. It'll make sense later on. It cost me 650 quid. But you can have it for free.
Thanks.
There you go. You got a deal out of us. Jack, sorry about that. So we were just talking about these cables at the front of the property because the client, when we got here, they're having some work done at this house. So they've got plasterers in at the moment, they're having it renovated, and we've got to get power from that gateway, that incoming supply, to this battery, because that's going to be the location of the battery and the sub-mains. That's where the client wants it. So we've got a challenge here because we've got to get cables from there to there. Now, it's all been replastered, so we can't get into the ceiling voids. There's no actual void at the front here to get into anyway. We've got a gas main coming into the property, so we don't want to start drilling down into this concrete. So what we've agreed with the client is they're going to build a step at the front of the property. They were going to do this anyway. So the reason the cables are here, because I know some people will be watching this and be like, don't really like that, is they're going to be cleated to the wall, and then there's going to be building a step on the front. So it's all going to be covered and you're not going to see it. We're actually fitting the Give Energy charger here as well, so that's going to come up here and sit on the front of the garage, and they fell over. So that's the reason why. So this is the Give Energy all-in-one battery. So you've probably seen these on the channel before, because every time we do an install video, it always seems to be a Give Energy all-in-one. But we've laid it out here so we can show you how it works. So this is an AC coupled solution, meaning it's got an inverter at the top here that converts AC to DC, because these are DC. And when the power is needed, it takes the DC, converts it to AC to power the home. So the top is the inverter. This is a 6 kilowatt inverter. That's a continuous power rating. It can do that continuously. And then you've got these drawers here that accept the storage. So it's 13.5 kilowatt hours of usable storage. I think it's 15.4 kilowatt hours of total capacity, but accessible capacity is 13.5. And essentially you wire this to the gateway. You can do it without the gateway if you want. You couldn't from launch, but in this instance we have got the gateway. So you take a power feed and a comms feed from this to the gateway, and these battery cells just, I'll do this really gracefully, just sort of drop in. There you go, and you put a little screw, I don't know if you can see that down there, you put a screw in to secure it, and that stops the cell from coming out. They're really handy because you can move this around and build it up as you go. I don't know if you can see on the front here, 52 amp hours in terms of its rated capacity. It's got it's just under 4,000 watt hours of total capacity, but usable is 3,400. So, you know, that's how you get to 13.5, because there's 4 of them at 3.4. It's IP20 and it can do 0 to 50 degrees for charging and -10 to plus 50 degrees for discharging. So that's the temperature that the battery cells can operate in. Probably shouldn't show you that serial number. Right, so we're on the roof now. So this is the bit that most clients don't really see, but it is really interesting. It's about fitting the rails, laying the system out, sort of measuring it, making sure we get all our clearances. And in this instance, dealing with tricky tiles. These are rosemary tiles. So they're quite difficult to work with because they're quite brittle. There's probably 3 times as many tiles on the roof when compared to a traditional concrete tile. So you've got 3 times the risk of breaking a tile, and you can't just fit a normal system when you install them. They have to go on to these sort of pads. Now, the guys are just currently laying it out, and that's not fully in yet. They're still working through the system. Jonty, the roofer, is going to show us how these go in, because traditionally what you would do is simply push a tile up, put a hook in, screw it down, and your rail would bolt to it. But because these are so brittle, we can't afford any weight to sit on that tile. It'll crack it and cause problems. So these pads take all of the shock of the system out of the equation. So he's going to do that now. So what he's doing here is pushing the tiles up, and he's making space so we can access the rafter. And now what we've got to do is install this pad. So this pad comes in different sizes. The one we've bought for this job is the same size as these rosemary tiles, although actually they're all slightly different, so it makes it a bit more tricky. Anyway, he's pinning it down here. He's going to put the bracket in, and he's going to pull them tiles back over. Now, these are really shallow tiles, and usually if we've got enough material on the back of the tile, we'll shave away so that tile sits flush. But because these are so thin, if we shave them, they're going to crack. So what the guys are doing is just doing it on an ad hoc basis as they go around. Sometimes they sit really flush and we don't need to touch them. The ones that need a little bit of shaving, we'll take a tiny bit of material off the back and just get it sitting nice and flush. So once your hooks are in, you can then fit your rail. And this rail essentially just bolts in, and it's height adjustable. So we always want it as close to the bottom of the roof as we can. It just looks neater and it looks nicer. And obviously on a roof like this, where there is some play in this roof, we can adjust that rail to make sure we get a nice level array. There's nothing worse than an array that's sort of all over the place. And the reason for the chalk marks, so if you can see them on the roof, is to lay out the systems. When we design systems at Heatable, we do that initial process remotely, and we use some software to lay out the array. And then we come and do a site survey. But sometimes on the day, things can also change. So today, the clients decided that we're going to go for 10 panels on this side and 8 on the other. The original design was 9 and 9. When we've got here, there's a Velux over that side, and just the way the system lays out, it's better for us to put 10 here and 8 on the other side. So the next thing we're going to do is start putting some panels on. But before we do that, just wanted to show you this ACM. There's one, maybe you can see it, just down there hiding. This is a different solution than we normally fit. Let's go and find out some more. So this is our panel. So from the front, it looks like a standard solar panel. It's an REA 440 watt Fusion 2. So this section of the video, we got a little bit carried away. Well, I did, talking about the ACM, and when we watched the footage back, we sort of realized it's probably a video in itself because it was a bit boring. But if you're interested, there's going to be a link on screen giving you the full breakdown of that product. What I'm going to do here now is just give you the highlights. So ACM. It's an AC module, which means it's a solar panel with a micro-inverter, but it's bonded together at factory and it's endorsed by Enphase. So it's our Fusion 2 REA panel, it's 440 watt, it's bifacial, and it's the IQ8HC Special Edition ACM version, and it's also a HJT cell. All gets a bit complex. What I'd recommend is watch the video about that product review. Let's get back to this install now.
So now I'm gonna make a fuss. You see me now.
these are some ACMs that are getting installed at this property today, but I just wanted to show you something. It's quite a cool feature. So as you can see, all these panels here are all stacked against each other. And what you wouldn't want is your micro-inverter to cause any problems with the actual panel itself, because you wouldn't want it to sort of lean against the panel and crack it. Enphase and REA have gracefully thought about all that. Here's our IQ8 HC ACM. This is our Enphase cradle that's been fixed to the panel. And as you can see from factory, it's nice and flush. It just about protrudes the actual frame of the panel, not by much, so it shouldn't cause any problems. But on this side of the panel here, you've got the AC connector. So this is the Enphase Q cable that clicks onto the microinverter, and it's blocked at the moment by this. And then what we didn't know was all you got to do is pull this out. That's now fixed. You can hold the whole panel from that. You can now access the AC branch of the cable, and you've transported your panel without any breakages. Very ingenious.
Because it went on the top of the rail. Oh, it's really comfy here. Yeah. We are currently installing the battery and solar feeds for the system, coming from the Give gateway to battery and the solar DB location. So to start with, we mark out the entry holes in the back of the Give, locate that on the wall, and then we stitch drill the brick to get our access into the back, just to make it nice and neat so you don't have big bulky copex coming from meter box. And then we fish our 25mm tails that we take down to our meter, and then these are our battery and our solar feeds, which will give us power to the rest of the system. As you can see, we have labelled these up load, so we've got a neutral load and a live load, and we've got a neutral supply and a live supply. And how that works, we've got our grid breaker, our bypass and our load breaker. So when these are all in situ, then they will be running through the battery. If there was ever full power loss, then the battery would pick up all the feed to the house, anything up to 5 kilowatts. So you can run anything from 5 kilowatts, including a full power outage.
So earlier on, we were talking about those HJT cells, that heterojunction, and about how it works really well in low light conditions. Well, a benefit of the ACM is that there's a light. Once this ACM has power, it's powered by this panel, and that's the activation light to say it's looking for the envoy. We've just closed the door on the van. It's pretty dark in here, and this panel is producing power, which is amazing given the condition it's in. So when REA say low light, they really mean low light. So Jack's just been talking you through the gateway and about how it can take your home off grid. If the grid supply failed, then the gateway recognises that and it takes power from the battery to run the home. But when you have a grid supply in the UK, you'll generally rely on that grid supply for your earthing arrangements as well. So obviously, if you've disconnected from the grid, you've also disconnected from your earth, and that's why we put one of these in. So this is an earth spike or an earth stake. So what the guys will do is knock this into the ground. This will be about, I don't know, a metre long. They'll test it to make sure it's got a suitable reading and it's giving the right indication that it's going to give a good earth. And then they'll cap this off and bury it. So you won't see this green box. There'll just be a little cap on top of here. And in a grid event, when you disconnect from the grid, you've got this to provide you an earth for your appliances should any of them fault. So we were just showing you the roof system as it's a little bit different because it's rosemary tiles and it had these pads. So we thought we'd show you down here because this is like a little lean-to thing outside, but it's got the same roof tiles on. So this is the actual pad here. So it's just literally a rubber mat called a hook rest. It's got 2 pins in here so you can nail it into the rafter. And essentially what you would do is take out that tile. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same size. So that sits in there. And all it does is protect these tiles below, so that hook isn't sat directly on the tile. Because they're so thin, there's quite a bit of flex in solar, it would break and crack the tiles, which is why you use these. Right, so this is the haunted gateway has been installed onto the wall. So this gateway is the component effectively that takes you off grid. And what the guys have been able to do here, which is pretty neat, is on the back of here is the consumer unit. So they've been able to fish through the cavity, take a brick out to get the cables rear entryed on this. So they're not going to use any of these bottom glands, which means you don't have cables coming out the bottom. It just looks a bit neater. You can't do it every time, but it's worked in this instance. So essentially now you've got the incoming supply from the grid coming into the gateway via the back. It then goes to the fuse, goes via the gateway to the fuse board, and that's what powers the house. If the house power dropped, the battery would kick in and it'd run the property. What we've decided to do on this job, the customers asked for the Give Energy EV charger, and there's actually a space for that on the Give Energy gateway. So you can wire it straight into here, which means that you can control the car charger like you wouldn't normally be able to, i.e. you can stop the battery in the home, the Give Energy all-in-one, being transferred into the EV. You can prevent it from doing that only with the EV charger from Give Energy, and if you wire it in this gateway here. This box is IP rated, obviously it lives outside. You push it, it's got a little gasket, and that is your key to lock it off. So once it's locked off, the gasket is sealed, it can get wet, it's not going to short out or cause any problems. Just like that, the battery is in and on the wall. The case is on now. I was going to open it up, but I can't bother undoing it. But just to give you an idea about how this is wired up, so you've got this 6mm power supply. This is coming from the gateway. So that goes all the way up and goes over. We've also got a little data cable as well. So you need to link the communications between the gateway and the all-in-one, and you do that just via a data cable. You just punch it and terminate it like you would any other data cable. And obviously you need a point of isolation, so this here is the AC isolator. So this will isolate the battery for maintenance, or if you need to turn it off for whatever reason, you can isolate it here. And the last thing that you need to get your Give Energy all-in-one to work is Wi-Fi connectivity for the commissioning, and so it can communicate to your devices, and you do that by this little aerial here, which is magnetic, and you can put it there, or you can put it there, or you can put it there, or there. Not there, there. What does that? End of day one. So this is a 2-day install, or a day and a half. Let's take you through what's been done so far and what's left to do tomorrow, making sure I'm not going to trip up. Right, roof. Like we said before, it's a dual array. So on this side, all the hooks are on, all the rails are on, and 2 of the REA Fusion 2 ACMs have been installed. On this side, we've got hooks, we've got rails, but we've not got any panels. We need to finish off installing the panels tomorrow, and we need to take you through that process. We've also got some guests coming down to do a review of the ACM, which you'll find out more on tomorrow. Electrical wise, down at base level, the Give Energy gateway, that's all in, that's wired up, ready to go. The power supply to the battery is in. The power line from the PV into that sub-mains is in. We've got the battery installed on the wall. We've got the earth stake in the ground, but not earthed yet. So we've got some finishing off to do electrically. We're also going to have to then commission the system. So commissioning the Give Energy all-in-one will be fun. It'll either go really well or it'll be a total pain in the bum. So we'll probably start that early. End phase is always super simple. That'll take about 20 minutes. And then we've got a Give Energy charger. So like we said before, we're going to install this charger on this job here. I've not actually been on site where we've installed one of these before, so it'll be a first time for me. We might try and fit a mini sort of review on it as well. We'll do that. Have I got a bug on me? Did I?
Yes, you do.
Anyway, so we'll finish that tomorrow, do a mini review, and then we'll crack on from there. So, see you in a bit.
Why is Lee filming me? Go away.
So it's day 2, we're back on site, and we're being joined today by the fully charged show Genesis, bit of a giveaway there. Now what we're going to be doing today is getting those panels on, we're going to be finishing off the wiring, get the system commissioned, and we're also doing some work with Fully Charged about this ACM panel and sharing the good word about this product. So let's head over there now and we'll get cracking.
Riveting.
So what you're to?
I've lost composure. We are connecting a Give Energy 7.2 kilowatt EV charger to utilise the trickle charge from the solar due to having the Give Energy gateway and all-in-one.
And what's your favourite cable?
If I say Doncaster, do I get paid? I'm gonna go with Doncaster's Ultra EV. I love them ones.
Flashing for the roof. But rather than just smashing a tile out, we actually cut it all in. So all I've done there is file and cut into that tile there, and then you just have to build around it. And then the flashing don't look out of place as such. Some people would just leave a tile out altogether, but I'd rather get it in like that.
So sit rep, sub-mains for the PV is pretty much done. It's not actually a sub-mains, it's like a mini consumer unit, got that wrong. Anyway, this is the Envoy. So if you have N-phase micro-inverters, obviously these are the ACMs, they still need to communicate to a central point. And with N-phase, it's called the N-phase Envoy. Now we've got it in this box here, so we try and always put these in a clear box, just because there's some indication lights on there. The app's going to tell you if you've got a fault, but it's just sometimes easier to have a clear box. So that sits in there. And then if you look here, these are our two arrays coming off the roof. So this is an AC cable, not DC, because obviously we've already converted it on the roof from DC to AC. So these are going to come down, and then leaving the bottom here is the power feed to the gateway, so we can measure that PV production. So we've combined them within this mini consumer unit, and then it's going to go off to the gateway. So that's all clipped up, that's ready to go, batteries in. We ran the cables for the battery in the end high level, so if you can sort of get up there, you can see that going across with the data, and that comes all the way down here and round. And then because this garage has an apex, we've run the two PV feeds, if you can see up there. So they go all the way up that rafter, across, and they just pop in at the very top of that apex up there. So they're nice and neat and out of the way. Right, so commissioning time, and we're starting with the Give Energy. So you've got two products to commission on this all-in-one, because you've got the gateway and we've also got the battery. Now we've connected both of those products to the client's Wi-Fi, and the first thing that Give Energy generally wants to do is update you to the latest firmware. That can be frustrating because this is where it goes wrong for Give Energy usually, and it has in this case. I don't know if you can see, but the gateway has been updated, that's great, but the actual battery itself has been stuck on 0% for about 15 minutes. So what we're going to do now is abandon this, delete it and reconnect it. If we can't get it to go, it's going to be a phone call to Give support, which just takes an hour out of our day and it's frustrating. N-phase is always super simple. So as soon as those panels are finished, we can start to build that array and commission N-phase. Like I said, we never really have any problems with that. So we're going to get this sorted now. But once that's sorted, we'll have the battery on, and then we'll be able to commission this N-phase system. Okay, so end of the day, we ran into a little bit of trouble with that Give Energy. It took about 2 hours to get commissioned, and then we spent about another hour getting this array level. So this roof sort of gives and pulls in various different places. So we've had a lot of adjustment to get the array lying flat, but we've got there in the end. It's just something to bear in mind when you're having solar installed. Every now and again, you run into a little complication. We can always overcome it. It just might take a little bit of extra time. So let's go and check out that battery. Okay, so battery is on and working. The app is live. We finally got there in the end with the commissioning. So the client's over the moon with this, and it's sort of nice and tucked out the way, but I think it's a really good looking battery. If we move around here, Envoy is on. We've got 4 green lights and we're producing energy. Our mini distribution board is all up and powered, ready to go. Round here, we've got our Give Energy charger, and again, that's all lit up, commissioned, and that's working in the customer's app. If we come round here, this is our gateway, so the gateway is on. Everything's been tested, everything's working perfectly, so that's really, really good. Our earth has been tested, and that's all ready to start producing energy. So that is a wrap of what has been a very busy day. Obviously, we've had the fully charged guys here all day. We've been doing filming with them. We've been documenting the install, and we had those little challenges to work through. Now, if you're in the market for a solar system and you'd be interested in having a system like this with these ACMs installed in your property, then head over to the Heatable website. Or if you want to find more about Enphase micro-inverters, then we have got a video on the channel going through the entire range, giving you all the facts and figures so you can make an informed choice. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, then please do so, because it helps us produce more content like this. Right, this was more recent, so my memory's getting good now. I can remember everything that happened on this job. This was a client who had an Alpha 10.1 kilowatt hour G3 battery, and he was doing the same thing where he was charging it up at night and it was running his home throughout the day, but he was just shy on the amount of generation or the amount of power that he needed, and he wanted to add solar. So we went back, it was like 3 months later, and we fit him, I think it was 12 of those REA Fusion 2 ACMs, and that's topped up his power and it's got him off grid. So it's another modular system, another interesting video. Let's get into it. Okay, so another day, another install, and this one is another modular system. That's because this client has gone for a battery only solution. So they had an Alpha G3 10.1 kilowatt hour battery that we installed about 2 months ago. They've been charging it up at night, and now they've decided they want to add some solar panels to this property. And we're doing it with the Enphase ACMs. We're putting 10 of those panels on this roof. We're going to connect it to that Alpha battery, but we're going to AC couple it. So let's take you through the install now.
You're right.
Do you know what? I've actually, embarrassingly, never seen one of these turn.
Have you not?
No. They look actually quite good, don't they?
They look really nice. They're
Okay, so battery is on the wall, is already been set up. We've actually got one of the new Alpha ESS 7 kilowatt chargers. Now, what's really cool about these is that they can talk to this battery, and what you can do is you can prevent the battery here going into your EV. That's a bit of a problem on most sort of solar systems, especially with batteries and chargers. Your car EV battery will be like 70 kilowatt hours. This is 10 kilowatt hours. What we don't want to do is dump 10 kilowatt hours into a 70 kilowatt hour battery. It's not really that efficient. That prevents that from happening. So Good bit of kit. Right, I was just saying off camera, we've not actually had one of these Alpha G3s powered up on site yet. I've been to so many where we've got to the end of the day and we've missed it, but not here. This is done and it actually looks pretty cool. The reason these are a little bit more expensive is because they are a much better built battery. It's an all-in-one unit, i.e. there's no exposed DC cables, there's no exposed connections, you've not got an inverter and separate battery cells. The construction is really solid and we have absolutely no problems about these. We always go on about Alpha on the channel and it's purely because we have no aftercare issues, we have very, very, very little downtime from a server perspective, and it's almost fit and forget, so it's why we push them so hard. This is the G3. This has got a 5 kilowatt inverter and a 10.1 kilowatt hour energy storage battery. So this is the battery cell here. This is that 10.1 kilowatt hour. This is the inverter. Now in this configuration, this has been AC coupled. So what does that mean? Well, AC coupled means that this battery is independent of the actual solar system. However, what we are able to do is monitor a third-party solar system and optimize this battery around that system. Now, the alternative for it to be AC coupled would for it to be DC coupled. So a DC coupled solution is where the solar panels that are going on the roof here today would come down in DC straight into this side of the inverter. We take that DC and we can drop it straight into the actual battery cells without converting it. So there is some efficiency gain there because you're not converting it sort of 4 times, or you're only converting it when you need it to convert back to AC to power the home. But the reason we are AC coupling this system is a couple of reasons. The first was that it's a modular system, so the client has chose to put their battery in first. They were charging this on an off-peak tariff, so for about 7 pence at night. They were filling all 10.1 kilowatt hours up, and that was running through the day and powering the home. The challenge we have is that by about 5 o'clock, it was running out of power because this house uses quite a bit of energy. So what we've done is we've added those solar panels, and those solar panels do 2 things. First of all, when the sun's out or when it's bright, the panels are powering the home so the battery doesn't need to discharge. Now, what that means is the battery has to do less work in the day, so at night time it still has capacity to run the home until that 12 p.m. Recharge time comes around. Is it 12 p.m. or 12 a.m? Gonna run the home. Okay, wait, can I put it on camera? Is it 12 a.m?
Is it 12 a.m? What do you mean?
What's like midnight?
Midnight is 12. 12 p.m. is midday.
So 12 a.m. is midnight.
It's 12 past midnight, right?
This is ridiculous. Well, it doesn't really matter. Look, at night time, it's going to kick in again, yeah? And then it's going to be able to charge up again. So the plan here is basically to have the system powering the home in the day so the battery lasts longer. And the reason that we've AC coupled it is because the client wanted to go for micro-inverters, because this is a bungalow that's quite low. It's got trees all the way around it and there's potential for some shading. We have also gone for micro-inverters because in the middle of the day they work from home and they use quite a bit of power, and when you have an AC coupled system you can actually provide more power to the home because you've got 2 generators. You've got solar panels providing power to the home and you've got the battery providing up to 5 kilowatt here. If you did this as a hybrid system, you are always limited by the maximum rating of the inverter. So if you pulled more than 5 kilowatt with this inverter, you would take the surplus from the grid. But with this AC coupled solution, if we pull like 7 kilowatt in the home, 5 can come from the battery and the panels could do the 2 kilowatt and we're not taking from the grid. We've got a real design flaw on this Alpha, which is there's a screw holding this cover to the actual inverter, and there is not a screwdriver other than a really cheap, nasty long one that will fit. So we're going to take the cover off now because we want to show you some of the wiring connections and how you can hybrid or AC couple this battery. So I'm going to get a screwdriver and back in a minute. Oh.
Mike.
Oh. Is this a petrol station JCB
Oh, look at that. There you go.
You done it?
Yeah.
There's some feedback there for the Alpha team.
Make your box the same as a wearer screwdriver.
All right, thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so we took the cover off. It's a bit dark in here, unfortunately. We haven't got a light, so apologies if this looks a bit low quality. But anyway, what is under this cover? Well, because we've AC coupled the battery, essentially we only have one cable going into product, and it's this AC grid cable here. So this goes straight into this inverter, and what this inverter does is take DC energy out of the battery, convert it to AC power, and that is what is powering our home because we've charged this up at night. Now the alternative to this, and this is where these products are really smart, is it's actually got a built-in hybrid inverter. So you've got two strings, and with the Alpha hybrid inverters, you can have up to 200% of the inverter rating as PV. So this is a 5 kilowatt inverter. You can put up to 10 kilowatts of solar power in here across two strings with two MPPTs. And also what's really cool is on this G3 range, you can do something called parallel the battery. So if you need more than 5 kilowatts or you want more storage, but you've only got a short window to charge it up and you need more power, then Alpha do something called a parallel kit. And what this does is put one 5 kilowatt inverter, another 5 kilowatt inverter, and it makes them 10. So you could have maybe, 10 kilowatt hours of storage underneath this one and 10 kilowatt hours of storage underneath this one. That's 20 kilowatt hours. And you've got 10 kilowatts of power to charge and discharge it. So it's a really, really good system, especially when you think like a Tesla Powerwall 3 has got a rated inverter power at 11 kilowatt. Everyone goes wild about. Well, with two Alphas, you can have 10 kilowatt, and it probably works out cheaper to have two separate Alphas with 20 kilowatt hours of storage than it does one Tesla Powerwall 3. Other stuff under here, some basic things. So you've got some connections. This is your BMS cable going into your batteries. This is where the inverter, sort of controls and monitors the battery cell. Then we've got a grid and a PV connection kit. So this uses something called a DTSU, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And that DTSU can monitor the grid to make sure that we're not exporting energy, we want to be recovering that energy, but also it can monitor solar. So we're going to put an end-phase solar system on this property. Although it's not running through this battery can see it. It will show in the Alpha app along with the charger, and it can recover any energy that's going from the PV that was going to the grid, or if it sees the PV covering the load in the house, the battery will step away, let the PV do the work, supplement any load the PV can't manage, and as that PV drops away, the battery goes back in to power the home. So it's a really powerful system. There's one more thing. Wi-Fi dongle is what connects to the client's Wi-Fi, and that's what gives you that sort of smart control and that app view. If you've got a really poor Wi-Fi signal, then Alpha actually do a dongle, a 5G dongle that goes in here, and that will give you that cloud connection. I think it lasts for like 5 or 10 years, but a smarter bit of kit if you get stuck without Wi-Fi. Yeah, very good. So I just wanted to run you through the locations and why certain things have been placed in the locations they have on this solar and battery solution. So the battery is in this little carport here, and there's two benefits to that. One of them is the client has the charger here, and they charge their EV at this end of the driveway. So having the EV near the battery makes it super helpful for us because we've got that communication link between the EV charger and the actual battery itself. The second one is weather rating. So this is actually a full IP rated battery solution. It can go outside, it can get wet, it can get rained on, there's no problems at all. But where possible, we always like to shelter them. So putting it under here sort of makes sense. It's out of the way. It's only a very shallow battery, so it doesn't stop the vehicle getting into this little carport here. And when it's super cold or you get driven winds, all that kind of stuff, it's not really going to drop any performance with the battery itself. So that's why it's in here. But what we had to do to put it in here is wire it all the way around to the other end of the fuse board, and we did that here. So this is the isolator. So the power from the fuse board, the incomer rather, comes all the way up in this armored cable, into this, and then down into our battery itself. What we've also run down here This is the data cable that's linking to that DTSU meter that I'm going to show you in a second. Now, the meter box is on the other side of the house. We got really lucky on this property because it's got this gravel driveway. So we ran the cables here and then we were able to drop them down underneath all this shale and gravel, dig down and run them all the way across, very snazzy panels, under here. So they pop up over there. Okay, so those cables lead into this. This is our consumer unit, or our sub-mains that comes outside. Now we've got those two cables, one from the charger, one from the battery. They come up here through these glands and they go into this DB, and this DB is in an IP rated external box. Where possible, we try and get these inside, but on this job we had no space, we've had to put it outside. Now within this, on the DIN rail, is that meter. So that's that DTSU meter that controls the battery. That essentially tells the battery what's going on with the system, whether we're pulling from the grid, whether we're sending energy from the grid, and we can actually link that meter to our end-phase system, which is up here. So the client on this job, like we said before, has gone for an AC coupled solar solution. Obviously here at Heatable, we use the ACM. This is the REA Fusion 2 solar panel with the built-in integrated end-phase micro-inverter. Well, micro-inverters need, again, their brain, they need their eyes on the system, and that's done via this. This is the end-phase envoy. So this is the control center to manage the PV system. So from this DTSU meter, there will be a CT clamp that goes around the power from our solar system. So all the production from the solar system is monitored by the alpha DTSU, and that is what gives the alpha system the eyes on the solar. Now, end-phase doesn't know there's a battery on the system because we're not using an end-phase battery, but end-phase doesn't need to worry about that. What end-phase needs to do is take power from that roof and send it down to this control unit, and that is done via this. So this sits in a little container here, and we've run some conduit across, nice little black conduit up. We've got black gutters on this property, and that's where we're accessing the power for the roof. So we're going to jump on the roof now and I'll show you the layout of the panels and what these ACMs are.
There are no problems, only solutions.
You join me on the roof, and that's because we're fitting the rails and we've also got our Q cable. So this is the connection for the end-phase system. So if you don't have this system, then you have something called MC4s because you've got a DC connection and you need to crimp and make off an MC4. The beauty of the end-phase system is it's all in AC, so you literally just plug that into the panel, and that's about as complex it gets. Because a lot of the roof work is done by roofers, not electricians, and what you don't want is a roofer attempting to do an MC4 because it's probably not going to end well, especially if it starts to arc. So let's take a look at this roof while we're here. These are the rails, these are now on the system. This is what the panels are actually going to mount to. And we showed you earlier on about us grinding out that tile so we can get that bracket to sit. What that does, if you look here, what that does is mean that this bracket sits flush, and what it doesn't mean is the tile is popping up. Thank you, I'll pass it back in 2 seconds. This is one of the roof tiles, and as you can see, these have got so much material on them. What we don't want to do is put a roof hook underneath that, which is probably about as thick as my little finger, that's going to step that off the roof. So what we've done is ground out a little hole in the back, and that's where the hook will sit. Now, this is a bit of a luxury, this tile, because it's got so much material on it that we're not really going to compromise the overall sort of strength of the actual tile. What you've got to be really careful on is if your tiles on your roof are already that thin and you want to take that much out of it, it's basically impossible. So you have got other options. You can cut round them, you can flash them. Sometimes you can get them to sit a bit nicer, depending on the type of bracket it is. But when we've got loads of material like that, we grind them out. Go and give it back, because I think we've annoyed and taken it off him. The next thing to do now is to get this upper tier of rails on. Then we're going to fit some of the panels. We're going to see if we can get one of the guys on camera to talk you through what he's been doing today, maybe do a better explanation than I have, and then we'll get them all wired up and get it commissioned and I can go home.
So obviously because it's an M-phase system, the AC supply comes from the gateway up into the panels, which is junction boxed at the rail, and then the M-phase link cables go to the back of each micro-inverter, so they get tagged along to a position for each panel. It gives the customer a lot more flexibility to see what each panel is doing individually, so they can monitor and they can see how much production each panel is producing. So the way we do that is we map each panel as it's laid through the toolkit on the M-phase software to give the customer the greatest flexibility to see what the system's producing.
Have you put any cream on that massive spot on your head?
Buddy, better not have. Okay, so we're just about to finish off railing off the roof. Once we've got that done, we'll start bringing up panels, and then before each panel's laid, we'll scan the barcode that registered it on the M-phase system. That'll show it on the map.
So the panels we've got on this job are the REA Fusion 2 440 watt bifacial HJT ACMs. I remember all that. So this is the panel here. Now from the front, and when it's stacked up like these ones here, it just looks like a normal solar panel. If you watch the channel, you've probably seen these before, but if you're new to the channel, these are a really interesting panel. So they're a bifacial panel, which means they've got cells on the front, but they've also got cells on the back. And to maximize the amount of light that can get to the back of that panel, they have a clear back sheet that allows the light to get through. So it can go around the panel. Obviously light is in the atmosphere. It's not always about direct sunlight, it's just light in the atmosphere. What this clear back sheet does is maximize that performance. Now what's interesting about the ACM version of this panel is this one we prepared earlier. So these are assembled in Australia by the REA team. This is an N-phase IQ8HC ACM. So this is the world's most powerful ACM, and an ACM is an AC module. So it's a PV module that comes from factory with this N-phase microinverter bonded to the panel. Now why that is useful is every one of these is a mini power plant. They are fully independent of their neighbours. So if one panel's got some partial shading, like the trees we've got over there, it's not going to affect this panel. If this panel has a failure, it's not going to affect the neighbouring panel. So what it also does is convert that DC energy to usable AC energy on the roof. And the other advantages of this is this N-phase cradle that is bonded to this panel allows the inverter to be pulled away from the panel, and that allows air to get around it and keeps it nice and cool. And the advantages don't just stop there, because you've also got the warranty. So the warranty on this ACM is 25 years. So your panel and your inverter are both covered by a manufacturer's warranty. And what this does is it reduces the overall cost of maintenance over the life of your solar system.
So each connector goes basically into the back of there. So we pull that off. And then you can just put the connector into there. So that's what I was saying about each one's got its own serial number. So then that's how we map it onto the toolkit. Going to just change the design slightly on this. So we're just going to change you can basically live change any of the system. Grab that panel, put that one over there, that one over there. So that's going to give us our 10 panels. Each roof is always completely individual, so you never really know where the panels are going to lay until you actually start laying the hooks and the rails down. With the best designs in the world, sometimes it's always going to be slightly different. The original design was to have 2 panels sitting over the apex of the roof over there, but it hasn't quite worked out that way, so we've kind of adapted the design to have a block of 2 and then a block of 10 just to make the full array work. You go in. Cool, man. Thanks very much.
Nice to meet
Appreciate it,
you, mate. Not a problem.
So even in this extremely low light, it's only producing 16-14 watt, but it's already going straight into the house and exporting 7 watts as well. So that's a good day. All pretty happy with that.
All right, okay, so it's the end of the day now. The guys are just finishing up, cleaning down and doing the handover with the client. And we hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, what we're trying to share with you here is these modular systems. This is when people are doing renewable projects in piecemeal. So this client here had a battery only system, and like we said, I'm repeating myself, but he was charging it up at night and he was getting loads of cheap energy, but he wanted to add solar. And what we were able to do is come back and fit that AC coupled N-phase REA Fusion 2 ACM HJT solution for him. So if you're interested in getting a system like this, then head over to the Heatable website and we'll be able to give you a fixed price, either for a battery, maybe for a solar system, or both. And don't forget, if you like the video, please press like, and if you want to subscribe to our channel, we'd really appreciate that. It helps us produce more of this content. So there you have it, 2024 Heatable Wrapped, and you thought Spotify Wrapped was cool. Look at this. Anyway, look, first of all, we just wanted to say thanks for everyone who subscribed to the channel, watching the videos, commenting, liking or disliking, because it means a lot to the team here at Heatable. We put a lot of effort in. We're all super busy trying to run the business, trying to grow the business, trying to find time for YouTube is really difficult, but we absolutely love it and we love sharing content with our audience. So what's 2025 got in store for us? Well, we're gonna try and up the level of production. We're gonna up the content. We're going to try and find more interesting topics and try and grow the channel. We want to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of next year. So if you can help us do that, it'd be massively appreciated. And once again, thanks for staying tuned. Okay. So once again, thanks for being so loyal to the channel. We appreciate it, and we'll be back in 2025.